I think I have my Ninja Turtle stuff. I think it's up in the attic somewhere, probably. Along with, like, all the real Ghostbuster stuff I used to have.
The Proton Packs we used to play with.
Proton Packs are probably still up there, yeah.
Holy crap.
Firehouse is probably somewhere. The Ecto-1.
If I dug into my parents' attic, I am sure I would find stuff like that.
Yep, my mom threw all my shit out. Well, it was whenever we moved from our old house to the house right down the street from Brian, and this is, I was like 9, I think, 10, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom was like, "Oh, it must have got lost when we moved." Yeah. My
in the
ass
trash.
it did. Yeah. But yet my dad's he keeps like all these fucking Wheaties boxes from the 90s. Like, who gives a shit? They're worth $2.
Do they still have Wheaties in them?
You know what? I probably.
That's gotta bring up the resale value, right?
No.
It is still a full box of cereal.
Okay, $3.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Brad Guy and his Super Friends, where we are one with the Force and the Force is with us. I'm your host, Brian Labick, and my guests for this week are Mike Romano.
I can feel the force.
That's good. You're going to need it for this review. And Mike Bradley.
You stole mine, Brian. I was going to do that, but it's already done, so I'm not doing it again. I didn't have a backup plan.
It's one of the best lines from the movie. You got to put it in the intro somewhere.
Yeah, I was just hoping that was going to be me.
Always have a plan B.
Well, too late.
Alright, so if you haven't guessed, even from the intro, title of the episode, any of that stuff, we will finally be talking about Rogue One. It's finally come out. We've all had a chance to see it, some of us numerous times. But before we really get into, I guess, the nitty-gritty of the movie, our impressions and all that stuff, I still feel like, even with this movie coming out this past weekend, people are still confused as to when the hell this movie takes place in the Star Wars timeline. So we're going to try to spell it out as clearly as possible. And
if you've seen the movie and you're still confused, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not thinking it's people that have seen the movie, but just like from advertisements and stuff, even the commercials apparently aren't spelling it out enough for people that they're still just being confused with what this movie is about. So again, we'll try to clarify this for anyone who hasn't seen the movie yet, so you sort of have a better understanding what you're in for. If you are familiar with Star Wars, I'm assuming you've seen Episode 4, which was A New Hope, first Star Wars movie that came out in 1977. The opening crawl for that movie is basically what Rogue One is. Now, I typed up the opening crawl, so I'll read it for you just so you have some context. The opening crawl for A New Hope starts with, "It is a period of civil war. Rebel spaceships, striking from a hidden base, have won their first victory against the Empire. During the battle, Rebel spies managed to steal secret plans to the Empire's ultimate weapon, the Death Star, an armored space station with enough power to destroy an entire planet. Pursued by the Empire's sinister agents, Princess Leia races home aboard her starship, custodian to the stolen plans that can save her people and restore freedom to the galaxy." Those first 3 sentences, period of civil war, Rebel spaceships attacking from a hidden base have won their first victory against the Empire. During the battle, Rebel spies managed to steal secret plans to the Death Star. That's the movie.
In 3 sentences.
I think that was pretty much the pitch, that John Knoll, who works for ILM, pitched this to Lucasfilm, looked at the opening crawl and said, "Has anybody ever really told that story? I think that would be a good story to tell." So that's where the idea came from. Literally, they got it from another Star Wars movie. So, it's I don't want to say, like, episode 3.5, because you'd think it takes place, like, right in the middle between Revenge of the Sith and New Hope. This is much closer to A New Hope.
It's like 3.875.
Yeah, there you go. That's
That's like 7/8.
I think I think one of the shows we did before, where we talked about one of the trailers, I think Andy described it best, which is still sort of convoluted, but I think he said he described it as the sequel to the prequels, but a prequel to the originals. So if you can follow that logic, that's where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, hopefully that clarifies some stuff for you. This is not a third Death Star. It is the first Death Star. We are not watching episode 8. This is not an episode. It's in between the episodes. It's clarifying and setting up what came before. So there, just hopefully that, again, helps you guys out, put some context to it. Hopefully people are less confused now when we move forward and start talking about what we thought of the movie. And I know we're itching to talk about details, but before we really get into the nitty-gritty and all the spoilery details of all we want to talk about, I do just want to start with just some general impressions, what we thought of the film. So if anyone listening, again, hasn't seen the film, now that they know where it takes place, they can sort of get our general thoughts on what we thought and if it's worth checking out for them. So overall impressions, general impressions, basically more or less, did you guys like it? And what you can say about it without getting into specifics. Either Mike can go first. If I just call on Mike, that's going to confuse everyone.
Go ahead, Mike, too.
Okay. I would say I thought this was a fantastic movie. I feel like whoever was in charge of casting made choices based on really quality actors. You know, like at first, it's always a hesitant step when they're gonna go off in a new direction, which is what this is doing, since it's not an official episode for Star Wars. And there's some hesitation as a fan of how this is gonna go, and you see them take the time to go out and find quality actors like Diego Luna, like Forrest Whitaker, like Felicity Jones, and you start to feel a little bit better about how things are going to go. And it really did touch on all the notes that it had to touch on for it to work. I'm trying to work through my mind of not spoiling anything before we put the spoiler alert in. But
do you need some time to think? Should we pass it off to other Mike?
No, I'm okay. My final basic thoughts on it would be that this ranks among, at the very least, my top 3 Star Wars movies that I have seen. And I will get into further reasoning for that with spoilerific stuff later.
Fair enough. Mike 1. What did you think?
I liked it. I thought it was good. It was kind of war-ish, so it was like an actual Star Wars.
That's what they were going for.
And I liked it. Because I was hesitant of this because, like Mike said too, it's the first. It's not an episode.
Yeah.
So who the hell knew what was going to happen? And I remember talking about this a while ago. I liked it. I don't know if I put it in my top 3. Definitely top 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to put the original 3 first. And then I got maybe have to see it again, but right now Force Awakens is sitting in front of it still, just because I don't know. I know it was basically A New Hope written over again. I get that, but it was still just awesome. So I would say it's maybe once I see it again, maybe I need to let it wash over me again.
Yeah.
And maybe feel it again. But I liked it. It's a great movie. I mean, the acting was awesome. Special effects, the practical effects were great. Even the digital effects that they use for some things that I'm sure we'll talk about later.
Probably one of the best space battles in any of these movies.
Yeah, the space battles were cool. Yeah, it was neat. I really liked it. I have my one couple complaints, but I'm sure we'll save that for later. But
all right,
overall, it's definitely worth it to go see.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the.
I will own it. I'll buy it. So it's not.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page with you guys. I agree with a lot of what you said. I do think it's like the choices in actors and actresses I think were fantastic. The effects were great. The warish tone was good. It had a little bit more like the boots on the ground type of feel to it. It was very wartimey. Makes the rebels, I think, seem a little bit less squeaky clean than they do in the originals, which is good. Starts out a little bit slow, I think, because everybody's sort of scattered. But I think by the time everybody starts to come together and cross paths, the movie picks up from there. Yeah, I think the ending was perfect in what I expected and wanted.
Yeah.
That hit pretty much. If you've listened to other podcasts that we've done where we sort of theorized what we wanted to see, that was, I think it pretty much hit the nail on the head for what we talked about and what they actually did.
Oh yeah, I think I think we both said that.
Yeah. I'd have to go back and listen, but from what I vaguely remember, I think we hit on all the right stuff. So yeah, I think, again, we all enjoyed it. I definitely think if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth seeing. I mean, any Star Wars movie in the theater is worth seeing, so definitely get a chance to see it.
I have seen this movie 3 times. I saw it in IMAX 3D. I saw it in standard 3D in a D-box, and I saw it in a standard 2D version. And I wanted to experience it in every way possible. And I would, yeah, I did, exactly. And I would say, honestly, as much as I want to see it make more money and so they can do as many of these as possible, 2D was probably the best experience all around.
No, the 3D or D-Box didn't do it for you.
The 3D, a couple of the effects we'll talk about later, did not hold up as well as they did in 2D.
Oh, okay.
And D-Box, I feel like it just needs to go. I've done both of the new Star Wars movies in D-Box, and I'm hoping for that, the cool space battle where it feels like you're moving exactly as the starfighter's moving, and it's just not happening.
So that's virtual reality.
What's D-Box? You gotta fill me in on this.
The seat vibrates, it moves, it's it. For instance, like in a couple of the scenes where the starfighters are going, it'll lean a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, depending on what they do. And the seat, like if an explosion goes off, the seat will rumble and make you actually feel that explosion. And
hold on. Where do you go watch that at?
The Pittsburgh Mills Cinemark has it.
Oh, huh.
But I don't honestly think it's for long because they charge way too much for it. And it's just not. It's a cool thing, but it feels kind of like the Rumble Pack for N64 to me. Like it's cool, but it's unnecessary in every way.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I mean, I think it would only be necessary if you were doing like first person stuff, like point of view stuff.
Yeah,
to make you feel
know what
like
I'm
you're
saying?
actually moving with it.
I mean, I actually think for a horror movie it would be interesting to add more to the jump scare with the rumble, because it definitely gives you a little bit of a jolt when an explosion you weren't expecting to go off goes off.
Yeah.
But I don't. I would say watch this movie in 2D, personally, to steer us back around to Star Wars here. Yeah, I would definitely say 2D was the cleanest version of it that I saw. And I don't always prefer to see movies in 2D. Some of the 3D effects they have these days are incredible. I just didn't feel like they were there for this movie.
Fair enough. All right, we've got our preferred viewing experience. You've got what we've thought of the movie itself. So hopefully that's enough for you to decide whether or not you want to see this movie. And for the rest of you, we're about ready to go into spoilers, I think. So this is your spoiler alert. We're going to get into the plot details, all the spoilery goodness for Rogue One. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, you don't want to be spoiled, you can pause us now, come back to us after you see the movie. Otherwise, continue at your own risk, because we're going spoilery. So last warning, this is your spoiler warning for Rogue One.
Wee-oo, spoiler! Wee-oo, spoiler! Something like that.
All right, so we are now into the spoiler territory. I have my bullet points of like questions and stuff I want to bring up, but we'll just start. I don't know. Is there anything specifically you guys want to start with that's jumping out at you?
I love Donnie Yen's character.
Well,
Start
yeah.
with Donnie Yen. Donnie Yen
I love
sounds
his
good.
character.
Yeah, Donnie Yen works.
Yeah, do we want to get it? Like, are we going to debate whether or not he's actually force sensitive, or is this going to be a thing?
Well,
I feel like the movie plays it very vague.
I personally have my own theory on that. I actually believe Chirrut Imwe is a character that had Anakin and the Empire and Order 66 not gone after and destroyed all the Jedi. He may have actually been a Jedi had there been someone to train him when he was young.
Well, he's not that old, right? So, I mean, he could have been
No.
picked up when he was younger.
What do you mean? If he's not that old, that would mean that they were gone.
Yeah, I see your logic. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how old do we think he is? Like, because if he's like 30-ish, 35 years old, like Order 66 was probably about 20 years ago, so he could have been picked up before he was 10.
Right, but none of his training would have been truly completed or even thoroughly started.
So you think he's half-trained, or you think he just wasn't trained at all?
Possibly one or the other.
Like, he would have been a Padawan at the time when... Okay.
I mean, I have no evidence either way, so I can't, But if I had to guess, I'd say he never was trained. But, it's one of those things where he doesn't have a lightsaber, and I guess what we learned from the Clone Wars is that when they are fairly young, if they're being trained, they go to get their kyber crystals and earn them to make their first lightsaber. So he would have something of a lightsaber if he were trained before, I would believe. Because it seems like that's a very early step in the process. So I think it's fair to assume that he was not trained, but that he may very well have been... I hate to go this route,
What if he
but
was like a... What if he was like a... Like, what was it? Like the Temple Guardians or whatever they were?
Yeah.
Well, they were Jedi.
They were?
I think they were maybe like lower tiered Jedi. I don't know if they're full on like Jedi Knights or anything like that. I think they were. That's why they were guards.
Yeah, they weren't Jedi Knights.
Okay.
They weren't Jedi Masters, but they were Jedi. Like they may have been Jedi that didn't pass the trials. I would think they couldn't pass the trials to become Knights. Perhaps.
I think, like Romano, I think my thinking is sort of more maybe in line with yours. I don't think his character is Force sensitive. I think he's, the Force is almost like a religion to people. So I think it's just like more faith in the Force and not necessarily Force sensitivity.
Yeah, but he's blind and he can dodge blasters and he can kick ass blind. So I'm gonna go with he's gotta be Force sensitive. He has to be.
If he is, I'm not giving him a lot. Like very, very minimal Force abilities.
My biggest thing...
He's like the Matt Murdock of the Star Wars world right now.
Yeah, and I feel like there has to be people in this universe that are talented in what they do, but are not...
He's a superhero, but not a real big superhero. He's not. He don't have the super in this superhero.
well, does that give him powers or not? That's where I'm sort of trying to draw the line, I guess.
Well, the case I would make for it is, sure, yeah, he kicks a bunch of stormtroopers' asses, and that's cool. He can hear them moving, and that's cool. But the guy fires a rifle at a TIE fighter and crashes it into a turbo laser.
Yeah.
That to me is
shit going on.
That's beyond just simple skill. To me, that the other stuff can be skill. That can be Daredevil-esque, just, skill. But firing a rifle at a TIE fighter, managing to bring it down with a simple, rifle, and also managing to get it to crash into the turbo laser that's wreaking havoc on the fighters in the air.
Now, see, playing devil's advocate, like I'd attribute the TIE fighter going into the turret is just happy coincidence. Shooting down the TIE fighter is probably just like your other senses are more attuned, so maybe just the sound of the TIE fighter coming around, he could judge distance and where it's going to fly and where it's at and fire the shot.
Sure. But I don't know. So we're saying the most impressive thing this character does is a happy accident?
Yeah, that's sort of where I'm arguing, I guess. Yeah.
Um.
I mean, I don't think there's a
Okay.
way to prove one way or the other, but that's the way I'm
No.
interpreting, and that's the way I'm figuring.
I just don't
I
think
think
that
I think
happens
this universe-
by happy accident.
I think this universe and this movie works better if there are no Force-sensitive people in it. I mean, minus Darth Vader.
Well, I think one way or the other, he is Force sensitive. I mean, just because somebody, not everybody who's Force sensitive gets trained. Keep in mind as well, because they didn't even want to train Anakin in the first place.
Yeah.
Because he was too old, was their quote. I mean, we're going back to Phantom Menace stuff here, but not that that's a good thing to do. But it is the case, so I don't necessarily think that he's not a Jedi, obviously. He's not Jedi level.
Right,
but
right.
he has some attunement with the Force.
Yeah.
To some level there. There's something going on there. It's not, it's not as complete, but it's there, I think. I don't know. It's hard. The other stuff, like I said, can be explained. I just can't explain that one away as nothing. And also the walking through with faith to the master switch.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's
that's
blind.
awfully
He can't tell
coincidental.
who's shooting at him and how close they're missing him. He's just walking.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, he's a character that is very hard for me to say one way or the other for certain. I just lean towards, he has some Force sensitivity there.
Yeah. I mean, I realize I'm being, probably outvoted here, but that's just where my opinion lies, I think. I think for being a spin-off movie where they try to focus on people not being Jedi, throwing in Force-sensitive people and people that can use the Force in different ways kind of detracts from what this movie should be. To me, anyway.
Sure. And I mean, I don't think he actually actively uses the Force. It's very passive in the way that he uses it. I mean, he's
so he
not...
can listen to it, but he can't use it.
Yeah. He can use it to see what's going to happen. But,
What's like Maz Kanata?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, she can listen to it.
She can't use the Force, but she can listen. Yeah, she can feel it.
Yeah. But I feel like you guys are saying that he's using the Force to shoot down the TIE fighter.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm saying he can feel it, and that's what heightens his senses.
I would say if he was trained by a Jedi, he would have been a Jedi, is what I was getting at, is that he has that Force sensitivity there, it's just not attuned enough to actually be a Jedi, because he never trained properly.
Okay, so I think you're giving him more Force sensitivity than I would like him to have. Like, okay. I'm thinking even if, the Jedi were around, he's at the peak of what he would do right now.
Okay.
Sort of like what Mike's comparing to, to Maz. She can maybe hear it, and maybe it influences a decision or something here and there, but actually using the Force and be able to Force push and read minds and stuff like that, even with training, I don't think can happen with him.
No.
Well, I mean, let's not also forget that he can sense the Kyber crystal around Jin's neck.
Ooh, that's right.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That's another big one that I had forgotten until just now. But
Well, that could still be. I still don't think that determines power level or anything like that. I can understand if the Force is again talking to him, if he's listening to the will of the Force or something like that, like they sort of hint at, where it's just I don't know. He can listen to it, like we keep saying. I think that could give him the ability to maybe feel the Kyber crystal.
So you're saying he's just basically, to you, in your eyes, he's just pure Force monk.
Yeah.
He's a monk of the Force, and he knows how to feel it, he knows how to interpret it, but he doesn't know how to use it.
Correct. Yes.
I can accept that.
We've come to a happy medium.
I can accept it. I still like to think of him as having been a potential Jedi, but I can go along with the idea of just pure Force monk that just can't use it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the Jedi. I want to see Jedi, but I don't want every movie to have a Jedi somewhere in the Star Wars movies. Like, the Jedi and stuff like that can be relegated to the saga movies for all I care. If they keep doing these spin-off movies, I don't need Jedi to be popping up in all these spin-off movies.
I mean, I need at least I was just saying, I need at least a couple where the Jedi and Sith are the main focus if we ever get an Old Republic movie.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and I'm totally on board with that. But I don't think, again, like a Han Solo movie does not need Jedi in it. If a Jedi shows up in that movie, it will probably distract from the experience of a Han Solo movie for me.
There shouldn't be a Jedi in that movie.
Right, that's what I mean.
I mean, although once again, don't cross your fingers, but I don't want to get your hopes up. You may see Ezra or Kanan.
In Han Solo?
Possibly.
Why
not?
Like,
they've had interaction with Lando.
We're sidetracked here, but
right,
I think at the time period, like I think Lando and Han have already, like the part you're going to see of Lando and Han in the Han Solo spin-off movie is before Lando crosses paths with Kanan and Ezra.
Okay.
Lando does not have the Falcon, so he's obviously lost it. He's looking for ships when they find him, so he's obviously lost the Falcon to Han Solo, which is probably going to be, I would think, a part of this Han Solo movie.
We think.
Yeah, I'm assuming. We don't know for sure, but Han meeting Chewie and getting the Falcon and meeting Lando and all that stuff, I feel like should happen in the Han Solo spinoff movie. That being the case, it would be prior to Rebels and Lando's appearance there.
True. I think that's just the only possibility of a Jedi showing up.
Yeah.
Because there shouldn't be any other Jedi that we know of at this point that are still out there at that time.
Well, technically,
except for maybe Shaak Ti.
Again, none that we know of, but since in Revenge of the Sith they reprogrammed the message to warn any surviving Jedi to stay away from the temple because it's a trap, there could conceivably be as many Jedi out there as they want to throw in a story and just say, oh, well, they escaped Order 66 because of the warning.
True. And I guess since The Force Unleashed is no longer canon, I mean, we know at least that Shaak Ti is alive.
Yes.
That's the only one I can think that would be definitely confirmed is alive. Because the other Jedi that you take down for that game, they're not part of canon.
Yeah, and we see a lot of them. Most of the ones I think we see in the movies all get exterminated by Revenge of the Sith anyway, so... Yes. Any of the ones from the prequels anyway should be wiped out that we've seen on screen, I'll say.
Yes.
All right, I want to move us along because I think we're getting way too in-depth and sidetracked with Force sensitivity and where Jedi should be showing up. Anything else that stood out to the movie that you guys want to talk about?
My first talking point in mind was I had a holy shit moment when they actually had Tarkin turn around. The first time I watched that movie, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh, that's cool. We're going to get the back of Tarkin. We're going to get a little bit of the Peter Cushing sounding voice, and then that's going to be it. That's going to be all they give us. And then he turns around and it's this incredible CGI version of Tarkin, and it's just like...
Yeah, because that shot, you could see his reflection in the window, and his face was there on the window.
Time.
Yeah.
And it's not like he was just like, that was it. That was the only time he was in the movie. He was like... I don't even know the main character, but he was definitely had several parts in that movie, which was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a lot more than I expected. And I was going to ask you guys what you thought of the CG faces, because he's not the only CG face we get.
No.
We get a lot less of her, but we also get Princess Leia's CG face.
Which is awesome.
I felt like his was incredibly well done, and hers was well done, but not as well done. And I think that's also... some part on they took more time with his because he played such a role, and they didn't take quite as much time on hers because hers was, you get maybe 3 seconds of her facing the screen there. So, given the significance, I think they did a much better job with Tarkin than with Leia, but I only think that because they did such an incredible job with recreating Peter Cushing, and, honestly, all the credit in the world I can give to Guy Henry.
Is he the guy that did the motion capture, or was there on set for that?
He's the guy that acted the entire thing, and they replaced him. That's his voice. That's him.
Okay.
Guy Henry is, if you don't know, former Sherlock Holmes. took over not long after Peter Cushing.
Okay.
And that was why they went after him, is because they kind of molded his Sherlock Holmes around Peter Cushing's version. And he did an incredible job, and he was 100% willing to go into this movie and say, my face is never going to appear on screen, I am acting as Peter Cushing. You know, like, he was taking, you know, like, they kept it under wraps as best they could. They had Guy Henry cast, but they had nothing about that going on. They didn't, you know, like, if you looked on anything, nowhere did Grand Moff Tarkin appear next to his name.
Yeah.
At all. So, it was something they did very well to keep under wraps, and they did just amazing work with getting him to do everything, and then they just kind of CGI'd over the guy. And it's like...
Yeah, I sort of have just a follow-up question. Because I feel like this is one of the more controversial parts of this movie, is the CGI effects that they can do to actors and actresses now. Sure. And, you know, some people say it's believable. I think we're all in that camp. I think it worked really well in this movie. But there's a lot of people that say it distracts from the performance. And, for instance, like, Tarkin is an important character, but I feel like with Krennic, there might not have been a reason that you needed to put Tarkin in this story. I feel like the same story could have been told without Tarkin there. Same with Leia. Like, you could have had Leia, like, when they opened the door with the plans, you could have seen her from the back. There's no reason for her to turn around. Mm-hmm. It still gets the same point across.
With Leia, I agree. With Tarkin, I'm going to disagree. Because Tarkin plays a lot into Krennic's story arc here. In that you have
why Tarkin? You could put another Admiral or Grand Moff or somebody there. Why does it have to be Tarkin?
Because Tarkin was... Tarkin. He's the number 3 guy. He's the guy that Krennic wants to be. You know, he is the man that Krennic is aspiring to be. So I feel like that's why. But to that point, I would have perfectly accepted Grand Admiral Thrawn. I would have been just as happy with that as I was with Tarkin.
Yeah, seeing him on Grand Admiral Thrawn on screen probably would have been the second holy shit moment type of thing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would have been just wow. But we didn't get that, and that's okay. But I would say,
does anyone else think it's really weird that now they can effectively bring people back from the dead with this effect?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Like, Peter Cushing died in what, like 91, 93?
I thought it was the 80s.
I thought he lasted till the 90s, but maybe I'm wrong.
Oh,
Either way, like, he's been dead for a good 20, 30 years, and yet they have him in a movie.
Yes.
That came out this year.
Well, but this, like, instantly after I was done with that, oh my god, there's Grand Moff Tarkin moment. What went through my mind was, holy shit, it may not matter who they cast as Han Solo.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know, like, because if they're that good now, at the rate that where technology progresses, could they do this for the star of a movie in 2 years?
So we're not going to see Alden Ehrenreich's fight. I can't even say his name. Alden Ehrenreich's face. They're just going to CG young Harrison Ford over top of him.
I don't think they're going to do that, but it gives me hope that they might. just
you don't want to see Alden's face?
I don't want to think of Han Solo as anybody but Harrison Ford. It's nothing against this kid. It's just, it's Han Solo. Like,
You're right.
like when the eventual recasting of Indiana Jones happens, I'm going to be completely not on board. You know, like, it's just one of those things where if it was Han Solo and it actually was Harrison Ford there, holy crap, like, how much better would that be?
Yeah.
Like, if they could just do even better than they did with Tarkin, but for Han Solo, my god, that would be amazing. And then they could just have Harrison Ford voice the damn thing and... Hooray. But, That being said, I mean, I think that was huge, but that was one of the things I was talking about with the 3D difference. That effect that they did not hold up as well in 3D, in my opinion.
Oh, the faces.
Yes.
Oh, really?
I just, in 3D, it was definitely off a little bit. Which makes sense, because it's a very complicated effect that they had to pull off to make it even work in 2D. And I'm sure it was 10 times harder to make it look good in 3D. And it just, I don't know, it threw me off a little bit in 3D. So a lot of the complaints you might be hearing from people around message boards or friends and family that you see complaining about it may have seen it in 3D, and it was not as impressive.
Yeah, I guess the articles that I've read talking about it, like different reviewers and stuff online, I don't think they specified how they saw the movie, whether it was 2D or 3D. So I don't know if that could be why, but
right.
Romano, you got anything stuck out to you that you want to talk about?
I got a couple complaints.
Uh-oh.
Complaints and
Not
grievances.
complaints. No, I mean, okay, so we put this movie right before episode 4, but then they made comments and left pictures of Star Wars Rebels. Okay? You see the ghost, or what could be the ghost.
Uh-huh.
You hear General Syndulla. So if General Syndulla is still around, where the hell are the 2 other Jedi at?
Well, I think that's
we may get the answer to that in Rebels before the end of the series.
Yeah.
I guess. But, I mean, it's just that, and then the fact that, like, we introduced all these new vehicles and never once seen them in any of the other movies.
Which new vehicle?
The TIE
The
Interceptor. The U-Wing.
Not the Interceptor, it was the TIE Striker.
The Striker, yeah, whatever, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, I don't know, I just, that stuff like that just irritates me, that we introduce new vehicles, but we've never seen them in any of the other movies. So what the hell happened to them? Was that the only one that they had?
Well, I think they try to, at least for the cartoon Rebels, they try to specify that certain different Rebel cells had different weapons and vehicles just for that specific cell. That's why you see A-Wings and I think it's mostly A-Wings that fly around with Hera in her Rebel ships. And that's why you don't see I don't think any A-Wings attack the first Death Star. Because for that Rebel cell, they had Y-Wings and X-Wings, and that was it.
They are in the Rebel shipyard, though.
In Yavin?
Yes. They're in the background.
Okay.
When they're all loading up and whatnot. I remember seeing this before about it, that there's a couple spots where you see them in the background. I don't know if it might be the version that's not remastered or the newest version that is. Whatever version it is, they are there.
All right, so we'll say, for the sake of argument, that they're being worked on. They're scrounging resources. They haven't fixed up A-Wings yet for that cell. So they only have X-Wings and Y-Wings to work with. It could be the same thing with the Empire.
But I'm back to
what about
the
the U-Wing
Jedi thing.
The U-Wing,
yeah.
I've only seen, we saw 2 of them, so I think they've got to be in short supply.
I feel like each one of them has their own purpose, though. The X-Wing is your standard, go-to starfighter. The Y-Wing's your bomber. The A-Wing is your stealthy speed fighter. And the U-Wing's your troop transport.
Yeah.
So I feel like given that they gave them each a specific purpose, that they would all, kind of need to be
Well, with
around.
that mentality, what's the troop transport going to do against the Death Star? Nowhere in their attack plan is it like, we're going to land troops on the face of the Death Star.
Right, but we don't see them on Hoth either. And we don't see them going to Endor, or, So, I think, the U-Wing's not going to attack the Death Star, but it could very well have appeared elsewhere in the original trilogy. Now, my point for the TIE Striker, what I was going to say about that is, the Striker is not necessarily a starfighter, which is maybe why we don't see them in the original trilogy. They seem like they are a planet-side only kind of fighter. So on Endor, you don't really have much use of that with all the tree coverage. They're not going to be much use. Hoth, not going to be much use. They're going in for one purpose, just to blow up the or the shield generator. So, where you get those ground battles, I don't think they would have turned up because they would have had to have been transported through space to get there, for one, and also I feel like they're made on site for Imperial defense.
Yeah, but the TIE fighter could be used as an atmospheric, fighter too. So I mean, what would be the point of just having only atmospheric fighters?
I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying the only place we see them is planet side. You never see one in space.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's because it's the first time we've ever seen one.
Yeah, well, I'm just making excuses for them, okay?
I know.
That's all we gotta do. We try to have to fill the plot holes for them.
What I
Yes.
gotta get back to the Jedi though, because we're talking a Disney okay, so they're not. Ezra and Kanan don't exist apparently, okay, in the other movies, but we're talking Disney XD. Do you really think they're gonna kill off people in Disney XD, like the main characters?
No,
I think Disney XD is gonna kill off people.
I'm not saying they're gonna die. I'm saying you're probably gonna have an explanation why they're not there, probably by the end of either this season or the series. I feel like it could end with just Kanan and Ezra have to go on a quest somewhere, the two of them, which takes the Jedi out of the equation, and Hera gets called to the main rebel base to help fight this thing.
Possibly.
So, they've done it in seasons past, where they go about their separate ways.
Yeah.
The whole end of Season 2 was all about Kanan and Ezra, and Hera was nowhere to be found.
Yes. I personally think Disney will kill them. But I don't think it's going to be the way that you might expect. I see them simply being shot down in a starfighter. They're in a battle
cheap
in
way to go.
space. Right. But it's a way that they get to explain it, that they're dead, and it can be Vader that shoots them down. You know what I mean?
I just can't see them killing off main characters like that.
Well, they're gonna have to do something.
I think it'd be traumatic for kids, because all these kids nowadays are a bunch of pussies. So I think that'd be very traumatic for a child. Not too much for us, but a child.
Not us.
No offense, kids. Please do keep listening. We're not trying to throw you away.
Not us big kids who still watch all these shows.
Yeah, give them a participation
Well,
trophy.
yeah, they have to explain it some way somehow.
Yeah,
that's one explanation. Another one I would offer is that they go to see Yoda or Obi-Wan, and he sends them further into hiding as a backup scenario to what may happen with Luke. As just a second line out there to continue on the Jedi that's completely hidden, that nobody knows about. So say maybe, they think they killed them off in some way.
But then if in Episode 7, when Luke goes looking for the last Jedi Temple, don't you think he'd be looking for anybody else that might have been out there?
Maybe we get that answer in Episode 8. Maybe
we're also looking at another 35 to 40 years between.
Hey man,
Episode
Ezra would
4.
still be Ezra's only 12, 15.
Ezra could be around, yeah. That's true.
Kanan probably not, but
Kanan would be
just
ancient.
a really old dude.
Yeah,
Kanan could just be in a new Obi-Wan. That's all.
I
wouldn't be surprised by the time Force Awakens happens that if Ezra is around, he's a bad guy.
Well, you know what? Kanan would be like Luke's age.
Yeah.
Maybe
Wouldn't
a little bit older.
No.
Be older.
Ezra would be like Luke's age.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Kanan would be not quite Obi-Wan's. No, he wouldn't be quite Obi-Wan's age in A New Hope. He would be like Obi-Wan's age by The Force Awakens, though.
Huh?
Obi-Wan's dead in The Force Awakens.
No, I'm saying he would be roughly the age that Obi-Wan dies at by the time the Force Awakens rolls around.
I gotcha.
Whatever age that was that Obi-Wan gets killed by Vader, that would be probably roughly Kanan's age during Force Awakens.
Okay.
I'll play your silly game. See, for some reason, though, I don't think Kanan's that old. I don't think he's that much older than Because wasn't whenever he...
I would put Kanan
whenever
around
Order
30.
66 came out... Whenever Order 66 came out, he was still a Padawan, wasn't he?
He was a little kid, yeah. Maybe 10-ish.
So that means he's 30-ish.
Yeah. So he's got a good
30 years. So he'd be 65. So he'd be like Luke Skywalker's age.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe a little bit older than him.
Yeah, a
Maybe
little-
5 years older
yeah.
than him. 5-10 years older than tops.
okay.
You're asking me to do math.
Well-
I can't do math this late.
If he was 10 years old or so at the time of Order 66, he would be 10 years older than Luke.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's the way to do quick math, Mike. Way to go.
Yeah, that's the easy math.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we're not going to know what the hell happens to Ezra and Kanan. We're going to have to watch a TV show for that answer.
Yeah.
The only thing we know for sure is that the Ghost and someone named General Syndulla is at Yavin 4.
Yes.
Yes.
And they are involved in this battle. I'm pretty sure someone like Pablo Hidalgo, the guy who's like in charge of the story, or at least part of the story group, I'm pretty sure confirmed that that is the Ghost.
And,
Yes.
Well, I just read an article on Facebook, like, right before this started, that they actually confirmed that, yes, that was her, Hera.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, that was the
'Cause-
Ghost.
Well, the only thing that sort of could distract is General Syndulla could mean her dad. Her dad is a general at the time. So either
Okay.
they're signaling for her dad, Cham, who's been in Rebels, and then actually in some of the extended universe canon novels and stuff like that, and in Clone Wars back then. So he could be at the base. Maybe they're summoning him. Either that or Hera got a promotion.
Yeah, no, there was an article, it was interviewed by one of the writers, producers of the movie that it was to be Hera.
So they are signaling for Hera.
Correct.
Okay.
So
Yeah, because I
Hera
mean, if
does
the Ghost
enough
is there, you have to
between-
assume she's piloting it.
Yeah.
Yes. So Hera does enough in between where we're at in Rebels now and Rogue One to become a general.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if
Well.
Rebels, the series, ends either this season or next season. Like, they're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna go more than four seasons. I think they'll end with that and then do a different cartoon after that.
Yeah, but
And
I could see that.
The way the series will end, I'm assuming, would lead right into Rogue One, where basically, whatever happens with Kanan and Ezra, they're doing their own thing, and then they get a call for Hera to report to the main Rebel base for something is happening, and then it picks up, and you watch Rogue One, and you see the Ghost and all that stuff. It's actually, you don't see her on screen, you just see the ship. So I don't know if it'd be like a fitting conclusion to the, as an extension to the series if it ends, but...
Well, here's the next question. Whenever at the very end of the movie, when all the Rebel ships go to jump into Lightspeed and Vader's ship comes in and blows them all up,
Yeah.
I couldn't tell because it happened so fast. Was the Ghost one of those ships?
I thought I looked at you and you said, "Oh, look, there was the Ghost," and I asked you, "Did the Ghost get away?" And you said, "Yes."
Oh, did I?
I'm almost positive.
Maybe I didn't hear what you said.
See,
Maybe-
that's
maybe-
something I didn't even think of. Now I'm gonna have to watch it again and pay close attention to it. But
The
that's
Ghost
not gonna
seems to
happen.
hover around like the bottom left corner or
Yeah.
left side of the frame in every shot that it's in.
Yep.
So I think at the time that started, that Vader's destroyer shows up, it was somewhere in the left corner.
Well, like I said, I guess that's something we may have to.
Viewing number 4, let's do it.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that one, but yeah, it's something I would definitely search on Reddit for if anybody has a clip of it.
Yeah.
All right, so what did you guys think? This is the first Star Wars movie without an opening crawl. Did you like that or not like that? Like, we
I
knew
didn't
it
like
was
it.
coming if you follow the headlines and stuff like that, but
See,
I
honestly,
didn't like
know
it.
that. I honestly didn't realize that. I knew that there was talks that yes or maybe that it wouldn't be there. Yes, it would be there. And I honestly completely forgot. And I was like, wait, no, because I even said it to you. I even was like, wait, no opening crawl.
yeah. Yeah, because they start with a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and then it just cuts to space, and then we're following a ship.
let me phrase it in a way that makes sense. There was a couple things that helped this not feel like a Star Wars movie. That was one of them. The other big one is no John Williams. We did discuss that at the theater. We discussed it. No John Williams that's an issue, but missing the opening crawl, The other thing, to me that is going to forever be missing from these is the 20th Century Fox. Like exactly.
Yeah.
And then it goes further because you get the further 20th Century Fox, and then Lucasfilm pops up, and it goes further, and then Star Wars.
Yeah.
For me to really feel like it's Star Wars, I almost need that at the beginning of a movie, just to sate that need.
Yeah, I think we talked about it on the podcast one of the times that news article hit, that they were talking about not having a crawl. And I really argued that I still wanted to see the crawl. I think that is a definitive Star Wars thing. I don't think, granted, you can, the movie proves you can tell a story without the crawl, but regardless, that's something that's special for a Star Wars movie. You can just throw that up there and just set the stage for what is happening. The only reason I think they didn't do it, well, I don't know if it really makes that sense, but to me, I feel like they didn't put it in because this is the first Star Wars movie that sort of jumps in time. Because it opens with a young Jyn, and then fast forwards 10 or 15 years ahead to when she's grown up.
I feel like the opening scene was the crawl.
Right, yeah.
That whole opening scene with her as a kid, and, ending with Saw Gerrera opening up the hatch, that's your crawl. So, in a way, it doesn't disappoint me because the scene was awesome. It set the tone. It lets you get to know Mads Mikkelsen as Galen Erso. It gets you, it gets you that start in to learning what director Krennic's all about and how much of a dick he really is. So I think that's an important part of that movie that with a crawl may have felt out of place.
Yeah, I could see that. Part of me was thinking too, because they did have a tie-in novel. There was a novel set right before the events of Rogue One called Rogue One Catalyst, which I think fleshes out the backstory between Galen Erso and Krennic. I feel like that's even something they could have summarized and put in a crawl.
Yes. There you go. See, now we're talking. Now we need, I was talking earlier today with a friend, and we came to the idea that they need to make a re-edit of this movie where it has a crawl and just piece in John Williams for the sound. And then it'll be just perfect.
Yeah. I still thought the music was pretty good, though.
See, the only parts of the music that stood out to me were the regular Star Wars themes that are used in other Star Wars movies. Other than that, it's largely forgettable for me. I normally like Giacchino's score. He usually does a pretty good job. From what I understand, and I can't remember who was on before him, but there was another composer lined up, and that composer had to bow out because of scheduling, and Giacchino had 3 weeks to make a score, which is not good. I'm surprised he did what he did in 3 weeks, but I think if he had more time, he could have done a lot better and had some better themes in there that are memorable, instead of just sort of generic music. But
yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter what anybody does with Star Wars music, they're not going to live up to John Williams. It doesn't matter, how hard is it? It's impossible. It doesn't matter what movie you're making. If it's John Williams or you've just lost. So, it's hard to get over that. It was something that was actually hard for me to get over a bit of, because John Williams, just watch Star Wars without John Williams. Just A New Hope, Empire. Watch any of them and take out the John Williams factor, and it loses a lot of mood. He adds so much to those movies.
Better yet, do it the other way and just listen to the soundtrack, and you can tell exactly what part of the movie you're in and what people are going through and what you're supposed to be feeling just from the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, every character had their own theme. Han Solo and Leia had a love theme. Lando had his own theme. Boba Fett had a theme. I mean, the Emperor's theme. I mean, good lord, there's so many of them that are so awesome, and it just was missing that. And that's one of the biggest detractors I had from the movie as a whole. was no John Williams, and I don't understand how they couldn't get him to do it. They had a $200 million budget, and they only paid one actress. I say actress because it was Felicity Jones is the only one who made seven figures to do this movie. Which is actually amazing.
Yeah, I think everybody else...
What's so special about her? What the hell else has she done? Like,
She
I
was...
have to look up the IMDb. I know she's been in other stuff. I can't pull off the top of my head what else she's been in.
She was an Academy Award nominee for some movie I've never seen.
oh boy.
But
She did a really good job in the Stephen Hawking movie, Theory of Everything, with Eddie
that's
Redmayne.
the one she was nominated for.
Yeah, that
I have
was
not
really
seen
well
that
done.
movie.
She was in The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, that's right. She was probably supposed to be Felicia Harding.
Yep, she was.
Yes, she was. And this is what you're looking at when you have somebody that's Academy Award nominated taking on the lead role for a Star Wars movie as a female, as opposed to Daisy Ridley, who's before Star Wars Force Awakens was not really
yeah, but
anybody.
I mean, that's one movie that she made. And it's just probably because the writing and the directing that she had a good performance.
She wasn't,
Okay, like,
she wasn't paid high seven figures for this Star Wars movie. She was just happened to be the highest paid person that was for it because Forrest Whitaker took a pay cut to do it because let's face it, he would have been the highest paid person in this movie.
Everything else she's done has been nothing.
Nothing to us, but I think it's those artsy-fartsy types films that are, again, like Academy nominated and all the big awards that everybody goes after when you're an actor and director and stuff like that. So they're good for the awards, awards bait movies and stuff like that, but they don't mean shit to us because it's not normally stuff that we go out and see.
Well, apparently this is like her only thing, is the Theory of Everything. Because the other movies are all like nothing.
All the same.
I'm looking at her. She was...
An Academy Award nomination brings with it a big pay raise.
Yeah.
For a short time after that movie. Like, don't get me wrong, if this had been 5 years from now that they went to make this movie, and that was all she had done, and that was the only notable thing, she wouldn't have been paid that much. But
that's
it's
true, because that
recent.
came out in 2014. They probably still were filming that in, 14? Late 14, early 15? Or no, probably late 15.
You talking about Rogue One? Filming Rogue One?
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably would have been sometime last year, within the last year.
And they probably signed her months before that. So, you're talking, it was fresh, it was big, it was something to the people that care that much about cinema. But at the same time, if Forrest Whitaker were to get his normal fee, you know, his salary would be through the roof. And it was one of those things, I had the conversation with my wife that, like, Daisy Ridley was never going to make as much as Harrison Ford for The Force Awakens. It just never was going to happen.
Fuck no.
Because he's Harrison Ford. The man's Indiana Jones. He's Han Solo. He's Get Off My
Harrison
Plane.
fucking Ford, okay?
Yeah.
They dumped a truckload of money in his front door and said, "Here, do this. We'll kill him off too."
Yeah.
I remember seeing a thing. He was the highest paid person, the actor, and it would be by a substantial amount. Where I think you could have totaled up the other main characters. Like we're talking even Mark Hamill.
Well, Mark Hamill didn't deserve
Leia.
to be paid much for that movie.
No,
Let's face it, because Mark Hamill gives you one look, doesn't say a single word. I don't think he earned a high salary for that one.
But I think he was it was something substantial where he was more than everybody else basically.
Well, it's the same thing with Robert Downey Jr. for the Marvel movies. Like they know where the bankable star is, and they put a truckload of money in front of them to get them to do the movie.
Not to go completely off topic, but he was also a genius when he wrote his contract in for a percentage of the Avengers.
Oh yeah,
he gets percentage-based pay. I want to say the first Avengers movie, he made $75 million for it. So
yeah,
he had a brilliant agent on that one. But back to what I was getting at is they could have afforded John Williams here, and I think John Williams just said no. I'll wait till episode 8. And Brian, you probably know we are getting John Williams for episode 8, are we not?
I'm fairly positive we are. Yeah.
Okay. So
I mean, that's usually
think
one of
they
the last
just kinda
steps, like during post-production, is doing the score. So we probably won't hear anything specific or confirmed until,
Okay.
Mid next year.
I thought he said he was done with Star Wars.
He said that prior to Force Awakens, and they got him for Force Awakens.
Yeah, I guess you just threw enough money at him.
And that's exactly what I mean, is they couldn't do that for this
I mean,
one.
at this point, he has to complete the next trilogy.
Yeah. I really feel like Star Wars just needs to recycle his music in ways going forward when he decides to be done completely. Or he dies, God forbid.
I mean, they've got the established themes that he's done, so there's ways to, weave new music in and out of those established themes, which I thought Gianchino would do, but I guess since most of those themes are tied to characters and events from the original trilogy, none of which really show up in this movie, it's hard to repeat a lot of those themes.
True.
I mean, we get the Imperial March, obviously, because it's the Empire and Vader shows up, and you get a little bit of, the good
You get,
guy.
an altered version of the Imperial March, too. It's not even, the true Imperial March.
Yeah. I mean, that could work anywhere you see bad guys.
Yeah. But I think moving on, I'll go, since Mike was talking about his problems and we're talking about problems. My biggest issue with a scene in the movie is the sniper scene, where Cassian and Bodhi are on the cliff and they're looking down at the platform, and he has Galen Erso. He sends Bodhi away and he's gonna assassinate Galen, and he has Galen in the sights. And in the same exact sights, you can see Director Krennic standing right there. And Cassian does not even make a second thought about killing Krennic. He doesn't look at Krennic for a second and say, maybe taking him out would be better than taking out Erso. He doesn't give that thought. And to me that says he is either A, entirely misinformed for somebody that is such a crucial part of the Rebel Alliance, or B, he doesn't... It's one of those things I struggle with this. But he either...
Well, from a story standpoint, I don't think he knows he has no idea who that guy is. He has no idea who Krennic is, how important he is. At that point of the story, they have no idea who that guy is. His orders are to take out Galen. That's all he knows.
Right, but at the same time, does he not know that uniform on an Empire officer means that he is a high-level director within the Empire?
He might think he might be able to deduce that he's a high-ranking official, but he doesn't know that he's the guy in charge of the Death Star, the weapon that they're trying to destroy.
So he can't make the
But
connection.
why else would he be meeting with Galen Erso, though?
Right, he's coming to meet with Galen Erso and all the engineers to work on the Death Star.
I mean, I see the logic is there. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
It's one of those things, it bothers me because it detracts a lot in my case. I was hoping somebody could buff me back off of this one, because I don't necessarily want him to kill Krennic there, but I wanted him to have the thought when he's actually, because that's a very conflicted moment for Cassian. He's trying to decide, should I kill Galen, should I not kill Galen, and, because he doesn't take the shot, and he's very concerned. He's going through all this, but at no point does he even give a single thought to, who's that guy? If we assume he doesn't know who Krennic is.
Maybe he's just so conflicted he's not concentrating on anybody else or anything else right then.
I could get along with that.
Okay.
He's too distracted, we'll put it that way.
That might be the only explanation I'll accept, I guess.
Sort of, like that same scene, I sort of have a different twist on it, is I don't understand why he didn't kill Galen. I don't understand why he made the decision not to kill Galen. Up until that point, him and Jyn have been arguing so much that you'd think they'd never get along, and suddenly he's doing a favor for her. For really no reason.
She had just told him everything about Galen and what he did for the Rebel Alliance by creating the trap.
But he makes no mention or gives even an inkling that he believes her.
But that's where
so why suddenly, when he's got him in his sights, that he suddenly starts to question everything? It seemed like his mind was already made up before that.
Right, but when it actually comes to pulling the trigger, life's a little bit more difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, but the whole point of him killing his ally early in the movie makes you think that he shouldn't hesitate at that for anything. He killed a friend earlier in the movie. That was his introduction.
That wasn't a friend. That was a contact. You know,
Either way,
that
that's
was
someone
somebody
he
that was
knows
going to get him
more
killed.
than he knows. He knows more about that guy and has a little bit of a rapport with that guy, as opposed to Galen, who he's never met and is just a target in the scope. One of which he doesn't believe.
That guy was going to get him killed if he doesn't kill him. Cassian's going to die right there because of that guy. If he doesn't kill him.
With the same logic, if he doesn't take out Galen, everybody dies because the Death Star kills everybody.
Not if what Jin said is true.
But that's what I mean. Like, there's nothing leading up to that point that even gives you an inkling that he believes her.
Well, but that's when he starts to question it.
If he showed some sort of moments of hesitation during their conversation, I feel like I could buy it more.
That's when he starts to question it, though. It is when it comes time to actually kill someone, when you have information that may mean that they are actually trying to help you, and you're not sure if it's real or not, and it actually comes time to pull the trigger, that's when you're going to start to have the questions. When you're leading up to that point, it's like, okay, I got to do this, and then you get there and you're like, this is harder than I thought because I'm not so sure about this now.
Yeah, I don't know. I still have a hard time buying that turn.
I've never personally killed a man. I don't know how difficult it actually is, but I assume that when the time comes to assassinate somebody, it comes down to that decision of, is this the right decision? You as an individual, not somebody that's blindly following orders, you're going to question whether or not you should pull that trigger.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, up until that point, there's no, like, if this was his first kill, like, okay, this is Cassian's first mission, I'm sending you to kill this guy. Now I can see him hesitating. But the fact that they established early on he has no hesitation for killing people, that doesn't, the turn seems unwarranted to me. Especially since he makes it a point to talk about how he just follows orders and does what he needs to do and doesn't really question why they're doing what they're doing or why they're telling him what to do what they're telling him to do and how morally gray it might be.
Right, but I mean, he has to have that conflict at some point. Otherwise, when the time comes for Rogue One to assemble, they wouldn't.
That's what I mean. Like, I understand it needs to happen for the story. Like, for the plot to move forward, that turn needs to happen. But building up to that, I feel like they could have done a better job to do that and set the stage for his conflict and turn to make more sense for the story. Not just like something that needs to happen for the plot to move forward.
Okay.
If he goes ahead and shoots Galen, the movie's over. I was actually expecting him to... Well, okay, fair point. I was actually expecting him to shoot Galen, and I thought that would drive the wedge between him and Jin that they'd have to resolve by the end of the movie. Like, I wanted to see that happen.
Okay.
I thought that would have added more of a conflict and given more of an interesting story moving forward to fracture the team right when it seems like they're all coming together.
In some ways, yes, and in some ways, I wouldn't want to have wanted that because I don't feel like there was time for them to come together.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a difficult story because then you have to fix everything within a set, 2-hour time frame. Which doing something that drastic, you might need more time than that to resolve something like that. But still, from my angle, that was sort of where I was wanting to see where I thought it was going to go. I was actually surprised he didn't take the shot. But I don't know, Romana, you want to weigh in on this? I feel like me and Mike are going back and forth a little bit here.
I don't know. I don't have anything to say on this subject. To me, it could have went either way. I don't really think it was a necessary point in the movie. I could have seen him taking the shot and maybe missing or something like that to maybe make it a little more real. But the thinking about shooting the other guy, or I don't know. Like Brian said, that he was set on his specific mission. He was a soldier. He was doing what he was told. I understand that you can also think as a soldier, but I don't know. I don't think it would have. To me, it doesn't. To me, it really doesn't do anything to the plot if he shoots somebody or not.
Okay.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's like Brian was saying. That's the point at which he decides to stop following orders. That's the point at which he says, "Okay, this order's wrong, and not every order they're going to give me is one that I should follow." Which leads to them joining Jin when she decides to go to Scarif anyways. I mean, so that I mean that's the necessary plot point part of it, but I don't know. I personally feel like the conflict within him is just brought on because he starts to think more. He has time alone to sit there and think about what Jyn had said and rationalize it for himself without the other's input.
Maybe he just got the hots for Jyn. He didn't want to kill her dad.
I
Sure.
believe that more than him questioning orders and thinking logically about how to save the day. Yeah, the only way for me that makes sense is, yes, he's somehow starting to feel for Jyn and doesn't want to, again, drive that wedge, I guess, between them. So if I saved your dad, I'll get on your good graces and get in your pants.
It all comes down to sex.
Perhaps. I mean, that's another possible scenario for it. I like to think of Cassian as a more noble character than that.
Yeah, and that's probably, I think, the point they were trying to get across.
He shot a dude in the back. He's not noble.
That's the start of the story. He started out being that.
He shot a dude in the back. That is the most cowardly thing to do.
Okay, and Han shot first, too. Han shot first.
They're trying to give you the character arc.
Okay?
You got to start at the low point to bring him around to the other side by the end.
Yeah, it's... He very much is a Han Solo character. He's not the same character in, the aspect of humor and the aspect of the way he acts and everything, but he is a Han Solo character that has all these bad qualities about them, but that manages to redeem himself with his good qualities.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'll go along with that.
I think that is a very important part. A very important point to make.
Okay. I'm going to try to move us along just because I think we're getting caught up on it. I feel like this is going to happen a lot. Every topic we talk about, we're just going to get caught up and dragged on for like 20 minutes. So I'm going to try to move this along. You guys each sort of said something you were nitpicky sort of and questioning about. So I have my own that I sort of want to bring up and see what we think about this. I want to see if my story logic follows here, because I think there's a story logic gap, and I'm going to try to explain this as best I can. If I lose you guys or get confused, let me know.
I'm lost.
Okay. I'm going to start over. Okay, so there's a point in the movie near the end. Bail Organa and Mon Mothma have a conversation before everyone leaves for Scarif. Mon Mothma talks to Bail about trying to get Jedi help. I assume they're talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Bail mentions that he's going to send someone he trusts to try to recruit said Jedi, which I believe we're led to believe is Leia.
Of course.
Correct?
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Yeah. So he said, I trust her with my life, which I assume is Leia. So wouldn't you think at that point that Bail would send Leia straight for Obi-Wan? Instead, her ship is caught up in a rebel capital ship that shows up at Scarif, and she does nothing the entire battle but sit in that ship and wait to get plans that she had no idea were going to get beamed and transmitted to that ship by the end of the battle.
Oh, I see your plot hole.
That logically makes no sense to me.
Okay,
the Battle of Scarif, she should have been on her way to Obi-Wan right then to pick him up.
I would say that she was, but then because of the battle at Scarif, they diverted to join the battle.
But
they heard about it and they said...
That blockade runner is not involved in the fight. It's sitting in the docking bay.
Right, but who's to say that she was sitting in that the whole time and didn't just transfer to that when the time came? I mean, are we assumed to say that the entire crew there was just sitting on their laurels waiting to leave in that? Or that they were actually actively participating with the battle?
So wait, let me see if I follow your logic, and I want to make sure I'm on the same page as you. The blockade runner is then just part of the capital ship, so you're saying they sent Leia on the capital ship and not the blockade runner, and the capital ship was diverted from going to Obi-Wan to the battle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she perhaps was on the capital ship and maybe preparing to leave to go to Obi-Wan, and instead went to the battle because there was a battle that needed to be taken place in because rebels were out there dying. But again, it's not like
she's a military commander. She's a diplomat. She has no business being in a military action. And if they are being diverted to the battle, at that point they should jettison her ship and say, you go pick up the Jedi we need for this fight that's upcoming, and we'll go deal with the crap that's happening at Scarif.
Perhaps, but that's also assuming that she knows exactly where Obi-Wan is. I don't think we're ever led to believe that...
I mean, Bail knows he's in hiding. He even says specifically he's in hiding, which I'm assuming means he knows where to find him.
He would have to, because he was part of he was one of the three that was him, Yoda, and Obi-Wan.
Yeah. And that was the whole reason A New Hope opens above Tatooine, because Leia is trying to get to Tatooine for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Okay. I mean, I can accept that. I don't know. I think her presence at the Battle of Scarif is that, she wasn't the only person and the only reason that they were there.
She's a diplomat, but she's also a rebel.
I understand that, but it's not, again, like the capital ship is the one commanding the battle. That's what the Mon Calamari guy is doing.
That is his ship?
Guy.
That is his ship?
That's the way I gathered it, yeah. Admiral what's-his-face.
Well, then
then
what I said is perfectly explained.
The green-skinned Admiral Akbar.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, when...
the capital ship, not the blockade runner.
Right, but I'm saying, like, that blockade runner is, at that time, part of the capital ship, and she is told that... What's his name? The Mon Cal guy?
That's what I mean, I can't remember his name.
But
Green Akbar.
Green Akbar works.
Yeah, Green Akbar. They're told Green Akbar has... They say it in the conversation that he has diverted and headed to Scarif. He's gone to battle. They ask where's he at, and he's gone to battle. So perhaps Leia was on that unwittingly, and he said, well, sorry, we're going to Scarif.
That's true.
Like, rebels are dying, they need us.
And then they find out that they're trying to get him plans, and he said, hold up, bitch. You stay here.
Yeah.
All right, I will buy that explanation. She's on the ship. The captain of said capital ship makes his own decision, does not inform anyone else to divert.
Hey, maybe they beamed her up there.
And then
wrong store. Wrong store show.
So then they show up at Scarif, and Leia's going, this isn't Tatooine, what the hell are we doing here? I could buy that. But again,
not to mention, the capital ship wouldn't be headed for Tatooine. I mean, because they would not, even at that, Bail did not tell anyone. Since we're assuming he knows, I guess we do know. I actually think, now that I'm recalling, I think when they have the conversation that Obi-Wan says, I'll take the boy back to his family on Tatooine and Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bail knows they're on Tatooine. So I don't think he would tell anyone except Leia where to go or why. Leia would be going to Tatooine without the rest of the Rebel Alliance knowing why. He didn't even tell them who he was sending to Tatooine. Right. So
yeah, well, he figures he already knows that Luke is Leia's Leia has a brother. He knows that already too.
Which is why he wouldn't tell anybody, because say Obi-Wan's no longer alive. He doesn't know that Obi-Wan's alive still. He's hoping.
Yeah.
But
that's why it's a hope.
So Green Akbar has no idea what's happening or why with Leia being on the ship. He doesn't know what's going on because they wouldn't give up the position of Vader's child.
Yeah.
Like they wouldn't give up the position of one of the last two known Jedi in the universe at that point. They're not going to do that, so he wouldn't have any information about that, and he would just be like, we're going to Scarif.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
So,
that's probably the best explanation I can think that you've given that sort of covers what I'm thinking, because that story gap logic wasn't fitting for me, and the only reason I felt like she was there in that ship is just so we get the end tag of her getting the plans and then going off into space, and then you cut to A New Hope and you're right where you left off.
Sure.
In my mind, there was no reason for her to be there other than, like, I'm going to get these plans. But again, at the time they showed up to Scarif, they just thought they were defending a team to leave the planet with the plans. They didn't know they had to beam them up to the ship and then hand them off to this other guy to give it to this other guy to give it to her to then leave
See,
on
there
that
was
ship.
beaming. There was beaming in this.
It was radio waves and all that stuff. Data files.
Well,
Just not a
yeah, I
person.
mean, the other thing going on what you said, though, is also draws a little bit of a hole in the beginning of A New Hope. In that, Vader is right there and watches her take off,
Oh, yeah.
with the battle plans, watches her ship, and she still tries to play dumb. Like, I'm just a member of the Imperial Senate, I'm an ambassador. No, you're a member of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. And it's like, I get why in A New Hope it's, necessary for the storyline at that time, because this story wasn't told at that point. But neither one of them would be playing dumb about anything as to why Vader was there. She wouldn't be able to play dumb. He just watched her take off, and we assume he immediately then, how far behind her would he have to be? Like, how much
We
time
have to
are
get
we
back
assuming?
to his ship.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. How
Pinpoint
much
where they
time are we
went.
assuming it elapses between the end of this and when he catches up with her in Tatooine space?
Yeah, not a lot.
I'm saying an hour or two, tops.
Well, I also don't know how far it is from Scarif to Tatooine. Being Tatooine's on the outer
Get
rim,
the
it would
galactic
be a little
map.
longer.
Get out the ruler.
Okay, 3.
I'm just saying, from a lot of what I've read in whatnot, sometimes this travel can take longer than they make it appear in the movies.
Well, yeah.
Like
Movie magic.
especially going to the outer rim and places like that, it can take a couple days, even at light speed.
I mean, if they go to Plaid, though, that's when they get real fast.
Ludicrous
Damn
speed.
it. Wrong movie again. Wrong movie again.
Oh, God. The Spaceball 1's gone plaid.
I'm going to Plaid.
Gone plaid.
You can tell I'm getting really tired because I'm starting to get delirious.
Yeah, we're going to have to start moving along here. All right, so we talked about Vader a little bit there. So
I
we're going
wanted
to talk
more
about
Vader.
Vader's scene.
I wanted more Vader.
So okay, so the little bit we had of him wasn't enough, even that last
It was
scene?
good. It was awesome. Because it does piss me off because it made me want more.
Oh, yeah.
Like I just want a Darth Vader movie now.
I
want a Darth Vader movie where he just wrecks shit the whole movie.
And that's what we talked about before with the trailers. Is that's exactly what I wanted to see. What we wanted to see was if Vader
more
shows
of it.
up, he just wrecks shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no one in this not this in this movie. Again, because there's no Jedi. There's nobody that can compete with Vader. He's on a power level above everybody.
Even at this time, there's still nobody can.
Well, right? Yeah. So,
Well-
when he gets in that corridor at the end and the lightsaber ignites, I was like, oh, they're gonna cut away, and then it just kept going, and I was like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yes. I mean, the idea of Vader just plowing through a bunch of grunts is incredible, because we
Rebel
have
scum.
not got to...
Rebel scum.
Yes, the rebel scum. We've never seen that before in any way.
No.
Think of Vader's battles in the movies. You get Luke, you get Obi-Wan, you get, the Emperor, and you get, like, one shot from Han that he just kind of like, bitch, please get out of here with his hand. Which he also does in this scene, by the way, if you didn't catch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
He has the guy on the ceiling, cuts him, throws his hand to catch the blaster. Oh my god. It's everything you wanted to see Vader do in about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It's
not
about
enough.
10 seconds there, and Vader just, I don't know. I actually wanted to, and I forgot to take a count on how many he goes through there.
It's got about,
I heard
about 10
I heard
people.
it was in the 20s. I heard.
Really?
Yeah.
It was a lot. Because there's several there.
Something
you
my
don't
one
even
buddy
really
counted.
notice.
He said it was like 22 or something, like 21,
Jeez.
22.
I guess I gotta watch it again.
There's I think Mike's right, because there's a number of them you see go down when he's just deflecting blaster bolts,
Oh, that's true. Yeah, yeah.
and then he grabs blasters. Oh my god, it's so incredible.
That scene alone is worth the price of admission.
Yeah, when that comes out on DVD, Blu-ray, and everything, I'm probably just gonna watch that like on repeat for a while and just take in every moment of it as much as I can, because we probably won't get to see anything like that again.
I wouldn't be surprised with all the praise that scene and what Vader has done in this movie is getting if we got a spin-off movie with Vader. The only problem with that is, like, the time period where Vader is present, they're covering a lot of that in the comics. And since all this stuff is supposed to mesh together and follow one timeline, I don't know if they'd make a movie with Vader when they've already covered a lot of that stuff in the comics.
True.
Maybe they'll just make a comic adaptation.
True.
Do you think we
Like
get
a live-action
Marvel movies?
adaptation of the
Marvel
comics.
movies.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
could. I mean, that's something to look into, for sure.
And I did have one issue with Vader in this movie, and that was that James Earl Jones, I was not 100% behind his voice performance. I'm not, don't get me wrong. Yeah, I know he's like 80-some years old. It did not, the dialogue felt too quick for Vader. I feel like Vader is a more thoughtful speaker. He's a more decisive speaker, and he has a lot more pauses when he speaks.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of that did have to do with the fact that it actually hurt for Vader to speak. I believe I have read this. That Vader did not speak much, and he did not speak as quickly, and, you know, he was very... The way that he spoke had a lot to do with the fact that, you know, everything that happened to him wound up in speaking not being the most comfortable thing for him.
I mean, that could make sense. I could see that.
And this dialogue felt rather rushed in some cases to me.
I could do without the Vader pun. Darth Vader does not make puns. The whole choking on your ambition thing, that line still doesn't sit well with me.
It sits okay with me, and it will once you read Tarkin the novel. Simply because...
Is he more punny in that novel?
No, but I just finished it the other day, finally. But one of the biggest points they make about Tarkin's rise to power, the Emperor's rise to power, is that their ambition was never to do what they did. Their ambition, like, you know, the Emperor's ambition was obviously to dominate. But Tarkin's ambition was always just to do what was best for the Empire. He had no self-interest in it whatsoever. Krennic showing all this self-interest about where his position is going to be, all his ambition that's there, was working against him.
Yeah.
And it plays a big part in why Vader and the Emperor do not respect him. Because he's doing it for himself, and not for the greater good of their evil empire.
Okay.
You know, they respect his intelligence. They respect his ability to create the Death Star. But not necessarily him as a leader or person for, you know, that it was going to be any more valuable than having created the Death Star, and they were going to kill him anyways, probably.
Yeah.
Because,
after
all, they are the Empire.
I do want to mention that I thought it was good that they sort of retconned the reason that the Death Star has the weakness that it does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was always, like, something that people sort of poked fun at. Like, oh, you build this big space station, then you put a big hole in it that people can shoot things at and blow it up. And this story explains that.
Than a Womp Rat.
It was, yeah. So I like that they explained that away. And now you have an explanation, a reason for that happening, and why that's there. So that was pretty cool.
Yes, I mean I love the way they explained it away, and I think that
it makes no excuse why they can do almost the same thing to the Death Star, the second Death Star, but for the first one, totally legit.
The second one, I say it wasn't completed, and they didn't do the same thing. They didn't fly down a trench and shoot into a hole. They flew into the reactor and shot the reactor.
Still kind of like another trench run, though.
Similar, but it wasn't a complete Death Star, so they didn't have time to cover the hole yet, because the whole half of it was a hole. You know, like... What it doesn't explain to me is Starkiller Base, and how Starkiller Base had this one weakness that's right on the surface of the planet, and they didn't learn from 2 Death Stars that got blown up.
Yeah, but they couldn't get into it. Remember? Even with the attack from the X-wings and stuff like that, they could. It took them blowing it up from the inside.
it still happened. And it was still
Yeah, it
right
still
on top of
happened.
the damn planet. I mean, they could have, put it under a mountain or something. Something that didn't make it so that they could just look at a satellite image and go, attack there. And, like, I just feel like having any one piece of it that can blow up the whole thing, they would have learned at least after the second time.
Yeah, you would think, but the Empire's not the smartest thing out there.
No. You'd think they would be. They take over an entire galaxy.
Let's move on to some characters. What do you guys think of all the new characters we got? Did you have a favorite?
We ain't got them anymore, pal.
Well,
That's
that was
true.
sort of going to be my follow-up.
Burn.
Are you surprised that they killed everybody?
No.
No, I was kind of glad they did.
Okay.
That's kind of what I was hoping for.
If they didn't, they would have to explain why they aren't present in the other movies.
Well, again, shit. People have their own shit to do. They don't always have to be involved in the main conflict that you see in the original trilogy. So I could explain it away with just them being on a different mission for the rebellion, doing something else at some other time, if they had survived.
There was something more important going on than blowing up the Death Star.
I'm saying they could be involved in another mission or something else going on when everyone is called to fight the Death Star. I mean, for all we know, they go somewhere and get captured. Like, that could be a story to tell, if they wanted to.
I prefer the martyr role for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely seals the deal as to why they're not mentioned or talked about or seen anywhere else in the original trilogy. It's definitive. It's clean.
Yes.
It was expected. I wasn't sure if they were going to have the balls to do it, and I'm glad they did. I think it does work better that way.
Honestly, at the beginning of the movie, I had my doubts that they were going to kill Jyn. Because there was just something there that said they may bring this up later in some way, because they give her a Kyber crystal.
Yeah.
And right at the beginning, the first time I watched it, I'm thinking to myself, are they going to throw some Jedi shit into this for her?
Yeah. Because
it's a Kyber crystal, so, there's obvious implications to her having that. But they didn't. They did the right thing. I think it's the right choice. I did not want them to do that, but it went through my mind are they going to? As far as the new characters themselves,
yeah, while they were alive, who did you like?
I like them all, honestly. I didn't have a problem really with any of them. I will say that, Cassian was my favorite among them.
Okay.
I felt like he was the most complete character. Most well fleshed out. You got to know him the best. I really, Jyn, you got to know fairly well, but I don't think you quite got to necessarily the bottom of her motivations.
See, I think she had a better arc, and you got more out of her than you did Cassian. Like, it's her story.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I just didn't what was her motivation? And
she just wanted to be a dick.
Yeah, I mean, fighting with the rebels.
No,
what was her motivation?
She's abandoned by her father, so she thinks that he's nothing. She has very low expectations or anything about her father. As soon as she hears that message, that's her turn. Like, her motivation changes as soon as she sees that hologram. Suddenly it's, I gotta save my father, I have to clear his name, I have to do right by my dad. And suddenly she believes in the cause of the rebellion because he does.
Okay.
You're pretty smart there, Brian. Lady.
See, I can pick up on a couple things.
But, I mean, that being said, I feel like every character had that one thing. I mean, Eric and I had a conversation where we kind of disagreed on. He said his favorite new character was Baze, and
who?
The heavy weapons guy.
Baze Malbus.
The guy with the machine gun, Mike. You said you liked.
Oh yeah, I like that guy too. Well, him and Donnie Yen's character. Those are my two favorite characters.
Yeah, I figured Donnie Yen would be yours.
Well, he cited the reason is, but that gun was so badass, and I'm
it was. It was.
And I just asked him. I said, "Well, tell me something about the character." He kind of felt like a Boba Fett almost to me, in that you didn't really get to know anything about him.
He
Yeah.
kind of had a little bit of Han Solo in him because he didn't believe in the Force. He didn't believe in any of that mumbo jumbo until the very end, when his buddy
Yeah.
ate shit.
Which, I don't know if you guys remember, I don't remember who was there, but there was the whole talk of Star Wars Celebration with the Rogue One panel, and there was one guy who spoiled a character death.
Yeah,
The guy that plays Maze was talking about Donnie Yen's character, about what he believes in, and then he basically just flat out said on stage, so when he dies, he totally picks up his belief and starts to believe in the Force and all this stuff, and flat out said that Donnie Yen's character dies in the movie.
Well, I mean, I went into it expecting them all to die, so it wasn't going to make it,
Right, yeah, in the
different
grand scheme
for
of
me.
things, it doesn't really matter because they all got wiped out anyway, but at the time, it was really funny to just see him blab a spoiler and think nothing of it and completely carry on his conversation.
Yeah. I mean, what I'll say with those two, I love the brotherly love, the bromance thing they have going on. It's awesome.
Yeah.
You got these two badass fighters that, they have nothing left to fight for. Their home is gone. Jeddah is gone.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of like, all right, let's take it to them. And they can do it. I felt like Bodhi was a very well acted character. I felt like that guy did one of the better jobs in the movie.
Yeah.
You felt the emotion in that guy. You felt, I don't know the actor's name offhand, but
Riz Ahmed, I think.
that sounds right. You really felt everything that guy was going through from the time he, saw Guerrero's people capture him to the time that he dies. You see, he believes in what he's doing. He believes in what Galen told him. And I felt a lot for that character, even though you didn't have a lot of in-depth interaction with him.
Yeah.
Um,
All right, so your
Yeah,
favorite is Cassian.
yes.
Mike, yours was Donnie Yen. Yeah, I think I can't talk enough about K2. I loved Alan Tudyk's
oh,
droid.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
K2
was incredible.
Yeah.
The whole thing when he was trying to impersonate capturing them, and then he gives Cassian the backhand.
Yeah.
I loved everything about that.
Yeah, that's true.
They're prisoners, and I'm taking them to imprison
Yeah.
them. In prison.
And then he smacked, quiet down. There'll be a
Yeah.
fresh one if you mouth off again.
It's great. I love that they made a sarcastic asshole droid.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Like, that was something that was so necessary that I didn't even know it was necessary.
Well, it's I think because if you ever listen to how C-3PO would talk to R2-D2 and his beep boop bop boop thing, I think R2-D2 was that sarcastic asshole, but we just never knew it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And we finally got I think he was a good combination of C-3PO and R2-D2. I think he was the combination of both of them.
Oh, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
I'm with it.
Yeah.
I'm with it.
I mean, yeah, just every moment with K2 was just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And the other,
Who doesn't love some Alan Tudyk?
I know. Yeah, he's a good
Who
one.
doesn't love some Alan Tudyk?
I want to see some of his improv. There's got to be a whole bunch of shit that he said that they just cut or didn't use.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be in the outtakes.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah, I was
anxious to
gonna say,
see a lot of those lines.
there's going to be some K2 outtakes that are going to be great.
I think I saw one meme where it was him talking about it's one of those ones where he just drags it out for a while where it's I think he was talking about Cassian and he's like, everyone talks about you when you leave the room. And then when you come back, they stop talking. But when you leave the room, they start talking about you again. No one likes you. That's perfect. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. They really hit the nail on the head, I feel like, with every one of these new characters. It just... I think every one of them was what they needed to be.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like they were missing an integral part of the team in any way.
Definitely
the
had that
team
sort
felt
of
complete.
Seven Samurai, Magnificent Seven type of feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, they all had their role to play, and
They were the real
was...
Suicide Squad.
Hey,
Oh,
Oh. That just came to me. I'm all over it.
the other one to talk about is definitely Saw Gerrera.
I could live without it, to be honest with you.
Well, the thing with Saw Gerrera is it's a very different character to me than what they portrayed in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I don't remember him being that crazy.
So I don't
He
even
wasn't.
remember him in the Clone Wars, so...
I
He
vaguely,
takes part in
remember
the...
him.
I went back and actually watched the arc again recently, and he takes part in the rebellion against the Separatists on Onderon, where they're kind of training the insurgents
They're
to
like the farmers
fight the
and
droids.
stuff, basically, right? Isn't it Anakin and Obi-Wan training like farmers and stuff, or is that a different?
This was Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka
Okay.
training. They were already an insurgency.
Okay.
This was the Jedi saying they would not outright help them fight the war because they were viewed as terrorists by some members of the Senate, but that they felt they had to help because they were fighting against a true king of Onderon who was being supported by the Separatists and everything like that. And he plays an interesting role because he's kind of the leader of their rebellion at first until his sister becomes the leader. But it just didn't feel like the same Saw Gerrera from one to the other.
Well, I guess some of the headlines I saw recently was that Saw's going to show up in Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So that's got to connect the dots a little bit better between
I
that
think
and
so.
this and Rogue One.
Yeah, I think it definitely will. I love that they gave Forrest Whitaker the chance to say it's a trap. And he did it very well. I loved
That's
it.
true.
I love that they cut off K2 when he went to
Yeah.
say, I have a bad feeling about... Shut up. That was great. They touched on all the things that a Star Wars movie should as far as lines like that go.
Yeah.
And I like that they made sure to include that. And it Saw as a character I felt like was a... I hate to say it, it was entertaining, but I felt like it was... I don't know, I wasn't entirely on board with how it went.
What do you
with
mean?
him being,
How it went?
with them portraying Saw as batshit crazy.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, I wasn't as thrilled with that.
Do you think that was a story decision, or you think that was a Forrest Whitaker decision?
Oh, I don't know.
If he just started playing it crazy, and they're like, you know what, it's Forrest Whitaker, just let him go. He's fine.
I mean, I liked the parallels between him and Vader. More machine than man. The sound when he breathes makes the same sound that Vader does.
Yeah.
I like the parallels they were drawing there, but I just didn't understand why. And I don't feel like they ever went more than the whole, just physical part of it. Yeah, I feel like they could have explored more there and really added some depth.
I feel like that's your hook and bait to watch Rebels. It's like, hey, remember this movie, the character you saw in Rogue One? Well, if you want to learn his backstory, here he comes on Rebels in 2 weeks.
Yep, and I'm sure it'll be like a 2 or 3 episode arc.
Yeah, I don't know how many episodes he's in. I hope it's more than one.
Is it Forrest Whitaker doing the voice?
I highly doubt
I
that.
doubt that.
Yeah, I don't think they could afford that for the Disney XD show.
Yeah.
But
It is Disney XD. It is Disney, though.
It's all under the same roof.
I think Freddie Prinze Jr. I mean, that's got to be about the same price, right?
either that or they just tricked Forrest Whitaker into recording a bunch of stuff for Rogue One that they're like, oh no, that's totally for this, and then they're just going to use it.
They're just going to loop all the
Rebels.
dialogue from Rogue One and use it in Rebels.
Yeah.
Oh, I meant the outtakes. Like, they were like, oh no, this is a scene. This is totally a scene for Rogue One. He records it, and he's like, wait, that showed up in Rebels. What the hell are you doing?
So one thing I was thinking about after... Because some of the trailers for this movie, I guess the last trailer, I didn't watch because I was like staying away from shit until the movie came out. So I went back and actually started watching some of the trailers. do you guys realize how much stuff is in the trailers that was never in the movie?
Mm-hmm. I see that. I keep seeing that on Facebook a lot. It's a lot of the gripes that there's so many things going on that were never.
Like, there's 2 scenes in my mind that stand out that looked awesome in the trailer, and I really wanted to see on screen, and they never happened. One is, I think it was the end of the first trailer, when Jyn, Cassian, and I think the majority of their group, she has the data tape in her hand, and they're running across the beach, and the walkers ahead of them shooting down at them.
Yeah.
They never make the ground after they get the data tape, so that was cut and changed.
Yeah.
And the second one is, I think, from the second trailer, where Jin's walking across the catwalk and the TIE fighter comes up and looks her dead in the eye.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been awesome to see, and I wanted to know the context of that, and that changed. So, do we think that's the reshoots? Did the reshoots fuck with the end of this movie?
I bet it did.
All the concern everybody had over that, and then, they all came out and said, no, reshoots are a normal part of the movie-making process. We're not changing anything.
There was a rumor that I heard that there was an option for a second movie.
It's still in Felicity Jones's contract.
Yeah.
She is optioned for a second movie.
I don't know how they're going to make a fucking second movie now.
I mean, they could always do like a prequel if they wanted to. How Jyn got in jail, in Imperial jail.
Oh, I wouldn't see that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that doesn't sound exciting.
No.
It's the only thing you can do. You can't go forward, so you have to go backwards.
Well, she's fucking dead.
Well, yeah.
Ain't going forward.
That's what I mean.
Well, my thoughts on that are anything that mean less action with AT-ATs is bad. So whatever they did that meant that scene of, at the beach with the AT-ATs, whatever got that cut out of the movie, bad. Just because it's more action with AT-ATs, that could be awesome. The TIE fighter scene, I feel like that was going to be like a hijacked TIE fighter.
Yeah, that was my theory too.
But I feel like they cut that because they just did that in Force Awakens. So...
yeah.
I that one I'm okay with just because it just happened. But the less AT-ATs is not good.
Yeah, so I don't know whether any of that stuff will be in like the deleted scenes for the movie or if we'll hear about any of that stuff later. Actually, I think, if I remember right, going back to Pablo Hidalgo, who's part of the story group for Lucasfilm, he's very active on Twitter. So a lot of times I think if people have Star Wars questions about the movies or anything, they tweet at him and he'll answer them. I'd seen some tweets where people were asking him specifically about scenes that were in the trailers but not in the movie. And he basically said, talk to me in a couple weeks. So I think he's waiting for people to see the movie, and like early next year, if people start tweeting him questions, he might actually be able to answer why that scene isn't in the movie or why stuff got changed. So I'm actually anxious to see what the answers are to some of that stuff. I don't know whether it'll be newsworthy, if it's something we'll try to cover later on in another episode, but just for anyone that's curious, you could follow him on Twitter and see if he answers some of those questions, and maybe we'll all get some answers. So I don't know whether we want to. You guys sort of talked about it earlier, sort of where you fit this movie in the Star Wars catalog, where you'd sort of rank it. I think sort of with Mike. I think it's more in Mike 1. So I'm sort of with Mike 1. I think it's more in my top 5 and not necessarily my top 3. I think it's hard. I think Empire and Force Awakens are still up there for me, and A New Hope I think might. Well, no, I don't know. It might be top 3. I might be able to put this in front of New Hope because I think the pacing's a little bit better for this movie. I think the action helps move it along a little bit more.
It's so hard not to put New Hope in like the top 3 just because it is the one that started all of this. So it's hard not to.
And I understand that, but I think after watching this, like if you watch these in order, you watch Rogue One and then go to New Hope, I think New Hope is going to feel very slow.
True. But, I mean, I still look at it this way. Look at the shit that they did with the technology that they had back then. That they made that movie.
Oh, yeah. Full respect for the original Star Wars. Like, nothing to take away from them.
So I can't, cinematically, I just can't put it ahead. Just because of that.
Fair enough.
I mean, at this point, I'm the one that says top 3, so I'll define here. For me, I go with a more pragmatic view, I think, because A New Hope, to me, is... Let me see, because for me now it's actually Empire, and then it's either this or Jedi. as number 2. I'm not. I'm calling that a tie in my mind right now. I'm not willing to dedicate definitely number 2 for this, or definitely number 3. But 2 and 3 are this and Jedi. 4 is Force Awakens, and 5 is either Revenge of the Sith or A New Hope.
The prequels sneaking in there.
Well, they don't get me wrong. Attack of the Clones is dead last. And Phantom Menace is next to last, and that is defined until they make something shittier.
Star Wars Christmas special.
the holiday special.
Holiday special, yeah.
We're all about to celebrate Life Day pretty soon. It's going to be epic.
The reasons for my lower ranking for A New Hope are that I didn't necessarily. It's really hard. Like, I feel like the reason that A New Hope gets put high on people's lists is more nostalgia than it is quality. And it's not, I'm not taking back from, the originals, the quality of the movie as a whole. I just think they've done better jobs with others. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm just saying I think they've done better jobs all around. Revenge of the Sith goes high for me simply because we get a much more in-depth story. Yes, we still have Hayden Christensen, and Natalie Portman.
I will argue that the problem is not with them. It is with George Lucas, 1, his directing actors, and 2, his script writing. That's where I put the blame, not on the actors.
I'll go along with that. Natalie Portman's proved that she can act.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Right, but Natalie Portman I'll give you. But I've had this argument many times, and every time I come back to the original choice that they could not secure for those prequels was Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Are you
probably
telling
read
me
the scripts
these movies
and said,
do not
crappy.
But are you one way or the other? Are you telling me those movies do not get exponentially better with Leonardo DiCaprio over Hayden Christensen?
Okay, I'm not saying. I think
when's the last time Leo made a bad movie?
No, I get that. I'm thinking with the lines of dialogue that Leo would have had to say, and having a director that is known for not directing actors at all, I don't know how much. Like, Leo would be better, but I'm not sure if it would be exponentially better.
Well, the other thing is, do you think really Leo would have looked at a line of dialogue and not said, listen, I'm going to change this to make it work?
I don't know how much
because
leeway
I can't
these
say
people
it
had.
that way. If you get
you
Leo,
also got
he
to
has
think
leeway.
back too. That's Leonardo DiCaprio. We're talking what, early 2000s. So
that would have been after Titanic.
Yeah.
So yeah, never mind. I take that back then.
Because Titanic was 97, Phantom Menace was 99.
That's true.
Yeah.
You're right. So he's already huge. So never mind.
I'm saying it's just a what-if scenario. I'm just saying those movies get a lot better with him. So there was problems there with the first two and the writing and the directing and everything. I agree, but I'm moving on to what I was saying about New Hope.
Yeah, the prequel discussion has to wait to another time. We can't get bogged down in the prequels.
Yeah, the reasons why I feel like this movie, Rogue One, ranks so high for me is that, one, this is the first time I felt like I was actually watching Rebels.
Okay. I see that.
You have the Rebel Alliance in the original trilogy, and yeah, it's a Rebel Alliance made up of a kid who, in my biggest issue with the whole damn thing, is that why the hell does Luke even join the Rebel Alliance? What have they done to him to push him to want to join, other than Biggs being up there already? Because let's face it, yeah, they kill, Owen and Beru, but he wants to join the Rebel Alliance before that happens. And we don't get a definition of why.
Yeah.
The reason that he joins the Rebel Alliance is because they're dead. They're out of the way for him to join the Rebel Alliance. He wanted to before, but he wouldn't leave them because he felt obligated to stay and help. Now that
Actually,
they're dead, it opens that door, so he goes.
actually, I'm going to argue that I don't know if Luke wanted to join the Rebel Alliance at all. I think he just heard of the rebels. Like, because the scene I'm thinking of is when 3PO says, they were in the, basically battling the Empire, and he gets real excited, like, oh, you're part of the, rebellion against the Empire? That kind of thing. I think he's just craving action. Because he
wants off Tatooine. He doesn't want to be a freaking farmer.
Right, and you're led to believe earlier, I think he even mentioned it, about his friends going to the Academy. It's not a Rebel Academy. He's talking about the Imperial Academy. He was almost ready to be a stormtrooper. He just wanted, like Mike said, off the farm. Any way he could get it, whether it's action for the Rebellion, action for the Empire. I don't think he believed in a cause until Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru were slaughtered by stormtroopers, and then that's the switch that they killed my family. I'm going after the Empire now.
And Obi-Wan said so.
Well, yeah.
I still don't necessarily. I feel like, okay, so we have Luke, who is that. I'll give you that to some extent. I still feel like we don't get a good definition of why. We don't get a thorough relationship between him and, his aunt and uncle that really makes you feel bad when they're dead.
Yeah.
But the rest of the Rebel Alliance is a guy who doesn't want to be there, and his furry buddy. A princess. The people that we're dealing with here.
Yeah, the Rebels themselves are secondary to the main characters of Han, Leia, Luke, Chewie, all those, like, the main guys we follow in the original trilogy. The stuff that the Rebellion is doing is all in the background as they do their important character things.
Right. And I feel like this was the first time I felt like they were rebels. It was on the ground. You got to see oppression of the Empire.
Okay.
You got to see what they're actually out there doing to people that is causing them to take up arms against them.
Yeah.
You see they're destroying this beautiful city in Jeddah, and they're putting people in prison camps. You get a real feel of why.
Yeah.
In this one, and I feel like that's incredibly important for the series as a whole.
It sets the stage better for the original trilogy.
Yes.
And, if we watch them in the way they happen in the timeline, that would be how you'd watch it. You'd watch this one first, and then you go to the original trilogy and have a little bit better background to what's happening in the original trilogy, which fits. It works. I'm with you on that.
Yes. And I don't know, it just had more of the things you want to see, I think, than A New Hope did. Force Awakens, that's another one that might be another, like, 2, 3, 4 kind of mix and mash up. But
you are putting this one above Force Awakens in your list.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hedging on Force Awakens, Rogue One, and Jedi. I don't think I have a true answer yet.
Okay.
I think before I really decide on Force Awakens, I want to see the rest of this trilogy.
Yeah, okay.
Because they can ruin Force Awakens for me by screwing something else up down the road,
Yeah.
If we find out, something ridiculous about Snoke or Kylo down the road, it could really screw up the way you view the first movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think currently, I think Force Awakens is still above this one for me.
Yeah.
I think there's just something about those saga movies that I think they feel a little bit more epic.
Oh, definitely.
And I think that sits a little bit better with me. But I do, all the stuff you're saying about this one I agree with, and I really did enjoy it. But I don't know, there's something about Force Awakens that still, for me, I get more enjoyment, I feel like, watching Force Awakens than this one.
I think you're supposed to. I mean, this ends just like Empire on a very, it's an up note, but it's also a down note.
Yeah, but Empire's still my favorite. Like, whether it's a down note or not, Empire's still the best one.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've met anybody that makes an argument against that.
Yeah.
You know, and I keep hoping for them to make a better movie than Empire. You know, I'm not going to complain when it happens. If it does,
Yeah.
I'll be glad to watch it over and over again. And I don't think, my point though is I think Empire is definitely the best, but I don't think there's a lot separating the other, I don't know, what are we on, 8 total now? So I don't think there's a lot separating the other 5. You know, there's separation for Empire at number 1, and there's separation at that bottom end.
Yeah.
But I think the other 5 are pretty darn close, in my opinion, altogether. I don't see, you know, like, enough difference to really flesh out a list and say that will always be my list, you know?
Right. Romano, do you have anything you want to add for this movie? I feel like you've been a little quiet over there.
I mean, I liked it. I don't really know. I mean, you guys have really hit a lot of good points that made me think now. Like I feel like I have to watch it again now.
Hey, I'll go for another viewing
because I've only seen it once. You know, as compared to these guys that have seen it like 15 times.
Twice. I've gone twice so far. Just 2.
Don't lie, you've gone more.
Just 2. I wish it was more, but just 2. I got a lot of time off coming up from work. It could be more than that now.
See, but that's the thing with this movie, though. It's like when I saw Force Awakens, the first time I saw Force Awakens, I was like, I have to go see it again in a theater. This, I'm like, I can wait till it comes out on video to see it again. I mean, I really do. I mean, I don't, and then that's what I even told Jess. She goes, well, do you want to go see it again? Because I don't know if she wants to go see it or not.
Yeah.
To her, she can wait till it comes out on video. It doesn't matter to her.
Yeah.
But I was like, honestly, unless, like, my dad probably wanted to go see it, I probably will wait till it comes out. I mean, and I will buy it when it comes out on video, of course. But I can wait until it comes out on video to see it. So, I mean, I don't know if that's any justification or I don't even know if validation of my thoughts on it, or I don't know. I have no clue. But I mean, I liked it. It was a good movie. I guess I still maybe I'm not as an in-depth Star Wars fan as you guys, and like when I think of Star Wars, I want to see lightsabers and I want to see Jedi and Sith.
Yeah.
So I mean,
that's where the saga movies come into play, because that's what you'll get from them.
Yeah, and that's why this is, because the prequels are always at the end. We know that, and that's because it was a funny thing, because at work we were doing like a whole bunch of us, we were given, you know, like lists, like ranking our movies from 1 to 8, you know, from the best one, and like without fail, every single one of us had the prequels at the end, and this one was like in varying spots. Mine was number 5. It's still, I can't put it above the original 3 and Force Awakens. I just can't.
That's fair.
Okay. Yeah.
But like Mike said, you know, about like a lot of people with A New Hope, they say they put it up, you know, because nostalgia, and I think that's really what it is with me too. Is it's just nostalgic.
Yeah.
It's the one that started it all. It was not number 1, I can tell you that. It was number 4. So
for you, number 4.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I went
Empire, Force Awakens.
No, Empire, Sith.
Oh.
I mean, Empire, Jedi, Force, and then Star Wars.
I'm surprised Return of the Jedi is so high on your guys' list.
Well, I think it's probably because like that was like my Star Wars movie.
The one you grew up watching all the time.
Yeah. The between Empire and Jedi, those were the ones that I grew up with, because A New Hope came out, I wasn't alive.
Yeah.
So, and even Empire because what, Empire came out in what, 82?
80.
80? So
Yeah.
I was, okay, fine, I wasn't even around with Empire then.
Yeah, Jedi was 83.
83,
Yep.
so that's the one I would have probably more remembered. But I don't know. That's why that one was up there.
Okay. I guess.
I mean, overall the movie was good. The acting was awesome. I'm glad they finished. I'm glad they did what they did. You know, killed everybody off. Because there's no way you could have made a sequel to that movie.
I was waiting to see like
unless they tried to drag it out, which would have been I would have been pissed.
Yeah.
If they would have tried to drag it out So I think they would have probably dropped to number 8.
It's Rogue One Part 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that actually at one point where we said, no, they're going to make a Rogue 2.
Yeah.
You know.
So do you think, this thought sort of just occurred to me, but Rogue Squadron, like that's got to be the call signs in honor of what these people did at this battle, right?
Possibly,
Yes.
yeah.
Because they used the red call signs when they attacked the Death Star, which takes place pretty much right after this movie. But by Empire, they're the Rogue Squadron.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because of the big victory that they got from the Death Star, from the plans that Rogue One had done. Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay. Never thought about that.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I didn't think about that either. I like it.
I think we've hit pretty much everything I have. Mike, you had a couple other things you wanted to hit?
Okay.
I think we hit about half of them. You said something about, you want to talk about Grand Admiral Thrawn? Did you want to talk about more than what you mentioned before?
And then
I think you
just
brought him up
wanted
that you wanted to see him you're thinking of him instead of Tarkin.
Yes, I feel like that could have been a replacement, that they could have gone that route. To have Grand Admiral Thrawn there, one, it would just be nice because we've seen Tarkin before. As awesome as Peter Cushing was, we've never got to see Grand Admiral Thrawn in a movie.
Yeah.
So, to see them flesh that out would be nice because he plays such a huge role, and it's so important to note something like that to give you a better idea of the Empire, that, you know, he's like the only non-human to attain that kind of rank within the Empire. It gives you more of a sense of what they're about, you know, and how terrible they actually are. You know, like, you add in that part of it too, where they get kind of that, I don't want to say white supremacist, because they're not really white supremacist view, but they're very bigoted
Human
view.
supremacists.
Yeah, they're very bigoted view of the universe, of humans being superior to all other races, or species. I don't know how you would qualify species. I guess is the best way.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good, you know, way of looking at it and exposing more about the Empire. But it's also, Grand Admiral Thrawn is just, he's an awesome badass character that I really hope we get to see in movie form at some point.
Yeah, I get the feeling they're going to explain him away in Rebels, because he has shown up in Rebels. He's a part of this season. They're definitely going to explain, I would assume, what he's doing and why he's not at that battle, or more heavily involved in the Empire around the Death Star. Like, he's got to have his own agenda and his own thing to do. It could even be as simple as he's going to be tasked with taking out Kanan and Ezra. So they know Thrawn is on their tail. So they leave. Thrawn chases them, which frees up Hera to go to this battle.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and even, not even just, like, in the other end of it is he didn't necessarily have to replace Tarkin, he could have replaced Krennic. You know, like, in Skip, you know, he could have replaced either one of them, and it would have been fine. But, that being said, yeah, having him hunt down Kanan and Ezra would make a lot of sense. And that's why he's not there, is because he's chasing down these last Jedi.
I'm gonna give myself a high five if that happens in Season 3 Rebels.
I'll give you a high five, too.
Nice. A clean, crisp high five.
There you go.
Just like Deadpool would give.
I also think something to note that still, I think, could have appeared here, could have been something somewhere, somehow got a reference to the Inquisitors, or why we don't see them any further at this point. Just because they're the one thing that's taken place in Rebels that seems like a really glaring absence that would have been around, you know, during the time of the original trilogy, if not for X event that means they're not. You know, whatever.
Well, I think it's more. One, I think they're trying to keep this movie, again, sort of clean of Jedi or Sith or any of the Jedi hunting type stuff. And two, the only people that know about Inquisitors are people that watch Rebels. So the general movie-going audience that suddenly goes to this movie and Inquisitor starts showing up, they go, who the fuck's this guy? Why does he have a lightsaber? And why is Darth Vader taking orders for, why is he giving orders? It would confuse a lot. It would raise more questions to the general movie-going audience than they need to. It would pay off for people that watch the cartoon and go, oh shit, yeah, that's the guy from the cartoon. But I think I think they're going to leave those types of characters in the cartoon for people. I don't see Inquisitors popping up in live action anytime soon.
The only way that it could is after Episode 8 if they introduce the actual Knights of Ren. The only way I could see it happening.
Having what, Inquisitors in?
Yeah.
You think
maybe that could give them a way to like somehow link the two.
So you think Inquisitors are like the next step to the Knights of Ren, or somehow related to Knights of Ren?
The Inquisitors or the next step to the Knights of Ren.
Okay.
Like that's what they base themselves off of.
Right.
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, that's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah.
That's if they even introduced them in Episode 8 or 9.
Yeah.
But I think Episode 9 would be way too far away for that to happen, so I think it would have to be 8 for it to be tied to Rebels or anything like that.
Right. Well, I wouldn't be surprised when Rebels ends, like that they do a cartoon series based around the 30-year gap between Force Awakens and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So they could even have either Inquisitors or the Knights of Ren show up or be alluded to in the next cartoon series that they try to do.
So there could be no Jedi in that one, though.
Yeah. Well,
so that's going to be weird.
Well, we
Star Wars cartoon without Jedi.
We still do not have an explanation of what's happened to Ahsoka. And we don't know how long her race lives. Right. And she's like the
one of those three could show up somewhere in that gap.
Clone Wars to Rebels, we're kind of really just following Ahsoka's life. Like, what's she been up to? Well, she's back. And then she's gone again. But, I think, speaking of the new movies, it's an interesting point to note that there was not a single tie made whatsoever from anybody in Rogue One to anybody in Force Awakens. And I think
there were so many theories that Jyn Erso was the mother of Rey.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Nope. I was one of the people that thought they were going to do that just to have the ties made. Do something. But
see, that just makes the universe feel small. That everyone is suddenly related to everyone else.
It's kind of what they do already, though.
Like a lot of people they look at Cassian and go, "Oh, that's Poe's dad," and stuff like that.
That wouldn't have bothered me, but it's all a matter of we are where we are, and I don't mind that they didn't connect them. I don't think there was any need to. It just might have been interesting if they had, but I have no issue that they didn't.
Yeah, I think it worked well for what they did. Mike, I got a couple other bullet points from you. There was extreme attention to detail and cameos. I don't think we covered either of those.
Well, what I was thinking of with the extreme attention to detail was just the little things they did at certain points in the movie that just kind of put it over the top visually, and also with some of the characters. Like one of the things that jumps out in my mind is the AT-AT walking through the sand, and them actually showing the sand pile up around, the base of the foot of the AT-AT. It was very intentionally shown that way. Another with the AT-AT is the one AT-AT you see has a hollow center where troops could be shooting out from it. Like almost like an attack helicopter. It has, turrets in it and things like that. It's just a different little piece that they add to it. And on the other end of things is just noting that they, having watched it 3 times, I started paying attention to little things. You see in the beginning of the movie, Krennic is not yet Director Krennic. He is just Krennic. And if you notice the rank tiles on his uniform, he simply has 6 blue pieces on his uniform at that point. Later in the movie, when he becomes Director Krennic, he has another 6 red underneath that. So they actually took the time to make note of he's not at his peak rank yet. He has not earned them. The other one to note is that Moff Tarkin has 6 blue, 3 red, and 3 gold, indicating that he is a Moff. And I find that interesting because he's also, at this time in the movie, he is Grand Moff Tarkin, but in the novel, that is a title that is actually reserved for the Emperor to use for him. The Emperor creates the title Grand Moff solely for him, and the Emperor and Vader are basically the only 2 people that know of that appointment, and he is more of a incognito third in power within the Empire. It's an interesting thing to note that, like that's why they call him Governor Tarkin, is because he insists on not being called Grand Moff.
Yeah.
Just so as to not make it known. There was a lot of other, just little things that you notice. And, Warwick Davis showing up in his character, to me that's part of the cameos and also part of the attention to detail at the same time, because they're saying, these are people who have contributed again and again to our movies, and we're going to make sure they're a part of it.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that Rian Johnson has a cameo in this movie. He is one of the Death Star technicians that fires the laser.
Okay.
Like next the like where the laser actually shoots down the tube, he's one of the 2 people that like shield their eyes on that one platform that has no railings. Like they could just walk off there and die.
OSHA would not be happy with that.
Yeah.
No. There's no railings in the Star Wars universe. They have pits all over the place with no railings. It's just not good.
This is true.
Thinking of that actually brought up one of the other issues I had with the movie. At this time in the Star Wars universe, the stormtroopers and the general military infantry that is operating for the Empire would still be clones. Correct?
No.
No?
No, the growth acceleration in the clones, they'd all died out by then. Rex and a couple of his buddies are the exception.
Yeah, they talked about that in Rebels.
I thought they had continued I thought they had the whole conversation they have in The Force Awakens is about why they went away from those stormtroopers being clones.
I don't even know if they mentioned, but I'm the explanation I've read or seen somewhere was that by the time A New Hope starts, the clones have died off. The growth acceleration over the 20 years between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, they get too old and die. And by the time A New Hope comes up, that's why they have Imperial Academies everywhere, is because they're recruiting fresh, new troops. And that's why the Stormtroopers suck, because they are recruits and not clones.
Okay. So there's a lot of conflicting information there, I think. Because if you listen to the conversation between Hux and Kylo in Force Awakens, it definitely sounds like they're saying that they were still clones.
They mentioned...
No, he said no. He said, "What? Do you want a clone army?"
Yeah, he mentioned maybe
taking a jab at the clones.
Yeah, maybe Snoke would want to prefer a clone army to your trained soldiers that aren't doing their job.
Right.
Meaning, like they almost like they'd reinvigorate that program if Hux's soldiers aren't fitting the bill.
Okay. All the same, it doesn't necessarily alter my point. In that when they go in disguise into Scarif, they take the uniforms off of them and they go into disguise. Are we really supposed to believe that nobody notices that Jyn, this tiny little woman, is in this baggy costume and is very obviously a woman, when the Empire would not have had a woman doing that?
See, I found it more apparent that the guy that Cassian took a uniform for did not have a beard. He goes in the ship and then comes out with a beard and walks past people that saw him get on the ship in the first place.
Sure. Yeah, I understand that, but at the same time, he's an officer, he's a man, he just walks right along. But to me, the little
I feel like the trooper that
5'3"
she
woman
took the-
is like...
Because I feel like I watched for that the second time, is that the uniform she takes, the person, whoever is wearing it the first time, is very short to begin with.
Okay.
So it's just like tall-wise, I think that sort of fits.
Yeah, I mean, it's very obviously a woman in there, is what I'm saying. Like, I watched for it again, and it's very obviously a woman walking to the ship. Like, either that or a
Body
man
language.
built just like a woman. Well, I mean, you can tell the difference
Yeah.
in, like, it I don't know, it just seems like very conveniently
Suddenly
working.
the trooper has boobs.
Yeah. And also, speaking of that helmet, finally you get an explanation that it has a little visor that comes down so that they can actually see what they're doing.
Yeah.
I never understood that helmet in the original trilogy. But move on to the cameos.
Yeah, we'll do that and then we'll probably wrap up.
Because cameos are fun.
Did you have a list of ones that you wanted to go through? Like, I can think of, like, maybe one or two that we haven't mentioned.
The dude that's wanted in 12 systems.
Yeah, that was the one
Oh,
that
yeah.
stood out to me.
The death sentence on 12 systems, yes. That's a good one. I
would
watched
count the blue milk in the beginning as a cameo.
Hell yeah, they got a pitcher of blue milk, man. That's
It's in the
that's
Urso
awesome.
homestead. Did you have more, Mike?
Well, we do see Chopper. I did watch for that again, the third viewing, and it definitely is Chopper that appeared. I thought the second
okay.
viewing it wasn't, but on the third viewing it definitely is Chopper. So that's an interesting little piece.
Well, that definitely puts Hera then, because Chopper's part of their group.
Yeah.
Just more confirmation that it's that group of people.
I'm thinking that there was a couple others that I'm... Go ahead with any that you recall, and maybe I'll jar my memory a little bit more.
I think that was all. Like, the one that stood out to me was the one that other Mike mentioned, was the death sentence on 12 systems guy and his buddy, Walrus Face.
Yeah.
He doesn't like you either.
Yeah.
Or I don't like you either, whatever. We also see the same droid from the original Death Star walking through Jeddah. The one that has kind of like the teardrop-shaped head.
3PO and R2-D2.
Yeah. A gratuitous cameo to make sure that they have once again appeared in every single Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Which is nice. I like that, but I didn't feel it was necessary, but I get why they did it.
Yeah. Just keep the tradition alive.
Yeah, because now Palpatine has not appeared in every movie anymore, and it's just them now. So, well, I guess Palpatine didn't appear in Force Awakens either, so never mind. That ended there.
Doesn't appear in A New Hope either.
Sure.
Isn't he? Oh, yeah, that's true.
Hologram
Okay,
that he
never
first
mind.
appears in his Empire.
Yeah.
Oh.
And have you ever seen the original of that, by the way? Ooh. Yeah, off the top of my head right now, I'm losing cameos. I'm off the top of my head.
See, we should have made a list of cameos.
Yeah, I should have, but I didn't.
All right. Well, I think that's probably where we'll wrap it up. I think that's a good place to end it.
Sounds good.
Overall, I think we're all pretty much in agreement. This is a good movie. You should be seeing this movie if you haven't already. We're seeing it multiple times. We've done that. That's cool. Do that too. Support Star Wars because we all love Star Wars. We want more Star Wars. Go see Star Wars. Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars. All right, so that's it for our review discussion of Rogue One. If you enjoyed the show, please stop by iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and review. Be sure to share, subscribe, favorite the show to keep up with us. You can also keep up with us on the Facebook page. You can go to www.facebook.com/BryGuySuperFriends. Like, comment, leave us questions, all that good stuff. We'll get back to you. And I guess by the time this comes out, it will be after Christmas. But, I mean, on behalf of Mike, myself, And everyone else that's been on the podcast, I hope everyone out there has a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll talk to you all next year. Talk to you next time. Bye.